December 22nd, 2023. We actually got 2 more live streams before the end of the year. So this is not the penultimate, just before that. The penultimate will be the next one. And then after that, there'll be just the New Year's Eve live stream. So just to remind everybody, no live stream next Friday. This Friday we'll have a live stream, but it will be a little shorter than normal. And we will pursue the quest for Hal effing Gill. But that is to come later on. So first of all, let me quickly go around the horn. We've got Brandon Claus. Good evening, sir.
What's up, guys? Just trying to be a little cheerful.
Oh, you got your festive hat to match the logo's festive hat, so we do appreciate that. We've got the Burrell from the Garage of Knowledge. Bobby, good evening. How are you?
What's up, guys?
And Eric's still broken.
Yeah. Yep.
Physically and mentally and in his soul. But other than that, he's good.
Yeah, all those things are accurate. Yep. I have a bulging disc pressing on a nerve, and that is why I've been in so much pain over the last couple of weeks. But hopefully now after the MRI and talking to the doctors, we can maybe solve the problem. But it's a bad time to try to get any help because, you know, it's the holidays and doctors are on vacation. And so
a bulging what?
Yeah, I have a bulging what?
I sort of heard it differently.
Yeah, needless to say, listen, where Bobby's mind is where Bobby's mind goes. But look, I think the important thing is that I for one feel terrible that Eric's breakdancing career may be coming to an end. This might be it. It's like he may have done his last move, and who would have thought that it ended like this near the holidays of all times? Brandon, not like this. Not like this.
Think of the money you save on cardboard.
Mm-hmm. Another episode, nonetheless, of the longest running episodic, whatever the hell this is. So it is episodic. So now you know. Diffix of life here. Holy cow! Already the end of the year. Well played. Something sport card. Good evening, gentlemen, and Merry Christmas. Good evening, Merry Christmas to you as well. Good evening, Paul. Bob Jackson here. Eric tried to use his head for once and see what happened. I kid. Hope you get more care you need as soon as possible, Eric. Compassionate Bob for this holiday season.
Thanks, Bob. It's been a tough 2 weeks, but we'll keep going. Do what we can.
Now, what's funny is even though it is the tail end of the year, and like I said, we've got a couple of live streams to finish things up here. We are going to talk about a couple of this episode will be a little bit truncated. I told everybody it's going to be a little truncated episode because I'm going to do the episode on Sunday from the homestead. So the tradition will continue on that one, and then the New Year's one will happen in the usual way. The day before we turn over the calendar. I've still got that year-end video to record, and I'm still trying to figure out where I'm going to find time to get enough to scroll through enough footage to find the right stuff. I did grab a couple of clips along the way, but
you do this every
wasn't
year.
As practical.
It's always the last minute. It's like
not completely true. Last year I had literally nothing. This time I maybe have a half a dozen clips. I actually have collected a couple, so that's a step ahead of last year, but not even close to covering the breadth of all the hours of stuff. And it's like, yeah, I'm gonna need some shortcuts. I'm gonna have to think about this one. I don't know. I got nothing. But we'll have to see what we come up with. So we'll figure that one out. I may have a special guest that'll be invited in a little bit because we've got some scandalousness in the comic book realm. So he may come in to speak on that a little bit. So we'll touch on that in a couple of minutes. But we'll start off here by talking a little bit about, first of all, let me ask the obvious question. Everybody got all their Christmas shopping stuff done? All good in that regard? Anybody do the last minute thing or everybody else all set?
I've done nothing. I've just been laying in bed.
You can shop on Amazon just by.
I was going to say Amazon. You could literally just be like, boom, boom, deliver it to my door, peasant.
Yes.
You just include that in instructions.
I don't know. I just haven't been in the mood. I haven't been in the Christmas spirit.
Well, you're growing a beard like Santa. I don't know why you wouldn't be.
Yeah, that's what happens. Like you sit around, do nothing. What's the point of shaving? I don't care.
Yeah. The hell.
Yeah.
My wife says she likes it. I say I look like an old man, but
oh no, you totally look like an old man. 100%. That is factually correct. Yes.
But she says she likes it. So what am I going to do?
Oh, there you go.
Accept your lies. Just accept your lies in the spirit in which you're given. That's fair.
Does Mom like it though?
Good question.
She told me I looked old, and then when I look old, she feels older. So I don't. She didn't come out. She didn't come out and say she didn't like it. She just said I look old.
You're a negative reflection of her.
Yeah, exactly. and it's like,
Can you just remind her that with or without the facial hair, that you have already had a hip replacement and you barely move and are laid up in bed because of back pain? You are officially old. No offense.
You are officially old at that point.
Yeah. You know the saying that ship has sailed? For you, it's that ship sailed, hit the iceberg, became coral reef, and James Cameron made a movie about it with Leonardo DiCaprio. That's how far beyond the ship has sailed we've gotten. It's been a long time.
Yeah, you're not too far off on that. No.
Yeah, just throwing it out there. So a couple of quick things before we get into it, and we'll touch on. So hopefully, folks that were checking it out, I do appreciate the feedback and everything. Hopefully, folks enjoyed the last podcast episode where we did talk about the Superfractor thing. I actually was shared. Someone on the Instagram actually did share with me a link to a Huggins and Scott auction from 2014, where there were a collection of different. I'll actually show you guys here in a couple of minutes. It'll be a good addition to what we talked about. And the insight, Refractor Jones, by the way, if you guys check out that episode, Refractor Jones in the comments gave a little bit more elaboration into it, who provided one of the images. But I've also got the Huggins and Scott auction, which is kind of an interesting in context because it shows a lot of those backdoored copies made it in through the auction system and were distributed through different ways. It's another example of what we're talking about. So it gives a little provenance to how some of this stuff made it out. And it's interesting in context. And I'll include a link in the description for people that want to check it out. Even Justin. So that's definitely one thing. Another thing, it's and Bobbles, you'll appreciate this. In the spirit of, I never really tried to build up an eBay store, but I actually ended up buying. I have invested in a thermal printer. So that was one of my late boxes that I actually got in. So I got the thermal printer and the labels. So next year we might have to do a little bit more eBay storing. Although it's been all right this year, even though I wasn't really trying to do that. So, but nonetheless, I was like, all right, let me invest in the thermal printer. Let me get her done. I've been sending out more packages lately, so we might have to have a little more investment.
As the self-proclaimed cheap ass, the thermal printer is something that I put off for way too long because it pays for itself very quickly.
Yeah, I definitely grab that and grab some of those labels. So I think that'll be super helpful because I've been printing a lot of the labels from eBay. I can literally generate them on there. It's like, you know what? If I just get the label, I can just slap it on the bottom.
And you get a discount too, do you know?
Oh, what's that?
You get a discount as well.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, 100%. So it just makes, but it also makes so two things. Yes, you get the discount. Absolutely. It also makes my life easier to actually have something I can literally just peel it off and put it right on the envelope and save me the energy. The other one, I can print it out, but then I got to cut it out, put it inside a little envelope thing. Yeah. A lot of extra work. Good evening, Spurs Card 21. Big Scott. Hi, everyone. My PSA order might be back by first week of 2024. I'll make some phone calls.
13 months.
Sounds like 2027 to me, Scott.
Yep.
I'll fix that.
Delayed.
Kathy says he's making me feel a lot younger these days. There you go.
Well,
Kathy.
Now that she had her hip done and she's recovered, she's moving around better than me. And she wants to help me out and do everything for me now because I'm laid up and she's mobile. So the tide has changed.
The tide has turned. Nice. Okay, fair enough. Thank you, Kathy, and early Merry Christmas to you. Hockey Cardboard says, anyone backdooring the Bruins Centennial card? How do you think Eric got one? He's not getting it through legitimate means. Come on.
No, of course not.
Was surprised that Ship My Cards would send general PWEs from Canada to the US. Really? Interesting. Not too familiar with that one, Paul. Bob Jackson says, thermal printers are an 11 out of 10. Would recommend. You can get off-brand labels for stupid cheap. Valid. Fair. Bob Jackson says, Eric is getting his payback, eh? Yeah. Maybe he's faking it. Oh, no doubt.
How much are the thermal printers?
The thermal printer was so the model I got was one that I'd seen recommended before. I checked out some reviews beforehand. It's compatible with all the different stuff. It was like $160, $150, $160. Not crazy.
Okay.
Yeah. And then get the labels. And then I got a package of 500 labels, which is enough to last me a little while. So that should be perfectly fine.
2 weeks. Yeah.
Hey, Bobby, if it's lasting me 2 weeks, then it's a very profitable venture. Look, I'm not complaining is all I'm saying.
Yeah, you're going to be a
Justin says Eric is in better shape this week. That's all relative.
Yeah. I don't think I am.
As a Bobby, that is a problem I will happily have. I will happily order weekly if we're getting stuff out the door that quick.
Look out, Probstein, man. Watch out.
I want to give some context too about my shirt, if anybody is curious.
We can't
so
see
if you
it.
watched the podcast a couple weeks ago, I had the mayonnaise shirt. So I told the story of I seen the mayonnaise shirt in the store, but unfortunately they hadn't actually gotten it in the store yet. and I was very disappointed. So I had to pick another shirt out, and there were so many of them to choose from. I thought it would be hilarious and try to fit in with my kids, and I spent money on this stupid shirt, and this is the first time I've ever worn it. But it is the Death Row Records with a huge pot leaf on it. Wow. I want to make it very clear. I have probably the least amount of experience of anybody in this chat with marijuana. So it is all hilarious because my kids are 18 and 23.
No.
Well, in fairness, until you had told us, to be clear, until you had told us, we can't actually see. We can literally just barely see the death row.
You can kind of see the leaves. It's
yeah, but I'm saying, like, somebody would literally look. We're going in 720p. We can only stand so much of Eric's visage. We couldn't handle it in 1080. So it's recording in 720. It's like we're like somebody's gonna be like staring at it like, is Bubbles?
Well, my name also, I guess, covers most of it too.
It does. It literally does.
His show intro is going to be Now Sweet Leaf by Ozzy.
I know. It's like Bubbles seems a lot more mellow. I wonder why.
No, that's never was my thing. Never. So
Double D here. Happy Friday. Good evening. But yeah, I think so. We'll definitely. So hopefully that'll make things a little bit more efficient. So I'm looking forward to that. But I want to give a quick story. So I'll give a thanks and a shout out. So first, to the friend of the channel, AMG Collectibles, and this will actually lead into the story. So when I went to go, the thermal printer came earlier this week. All good. I wasn't expecting anything else to come in the mail really, except for maybe one thing, and it actually did come in today as well. And it was a big 250 count case of envelopes. Basically more padded envelopes because I was running low on the other case. I was maybe down to 15 or 20. I go, let me reorder. Uline does delivery pretty quick, so they shipped it out. It was there. Got knock on the door. The post guy comes in. Like I said, they might fire this guy in the new year because he actually knocks on the door when you have a delivery. I'm like, oh my God,
really?
I don't know what to do. Like, I don't know what to do. So he knocks on the door and he needs me to sign for something. So I received a box and I was like, I am not expecting any boxes. The only box I was expecting, I literally saw 3 boxes sitting beside him and I'm like, is that? I was like, oh, the middle one's not yours. It's like, well, the big one is the padded envelopes. I know what that is, so I can see from the side of the box. So I expected that. And it goes, so I signed off on it. And it was from our friends at AMG Collectibles, amgcollectibles.ca. And it was a surprise Christmas present from my friends at AMG. So I'll show boxes. I wish. No, I don't think it was. So they sent a couple of cards. So we got an Autofax Medano. This was from the new Autofax with the Minnesota North Star. So that's actually a pretty sweet card. This, I believe, was the I think this was the infamous one that Brad was looking for, the one that he claimed he had. Well, it turns out it's from the Stature, 21-22 Stature, and it's the red parallel of the Medano autograph. And that one is the out of 5. So the red one is the out of 5. That's very nice. So those were, but I said it was a box. Well, the reason it was a box is because that was included in the box. But somebody, I have no idea who, I'm going to get to the bottom of the mystery, went shopping, and I got a Dennis PC action figure. I was like, what the hell? I literally looked at it. I was like, I just laughed. I go, I'll give you credit. It's like, but I was like, which one of you went shopping for action figures? I want answers. I have questions and I want answers. I was just chuckling. I was like, all right, man, this is Britt.
Do they not carry them in the store?
What's that?
Do they not?
I have no idea. Not as far as I'm aware. Look, if they're having trouble selling AEW boxes, imagine trying to sell the action figures.
Yeah. Like
they've actually had the action figures now for a couple of years, but I never collected the action figures because it takes up more space. Like it's like cards work for me because you can basically put them in a box, put them in a binder, and you're good to go. But I was shocked when I saw this. I was like, hilarious. I appreciate it. Nonetheless, I thank you. I appreciate it in the spirit in which it was said. But you definitely caught me by surprise on that one. That's why when I saw it was a box, I was like, what the hell's what's in the box?
Now she'll be in the background of all your videos now, and that'll be cool.
Well,
I didn't even think.
I'd have to hang it up somewhere. Like, where the hell am I going to put it? That's part of that's part of the problem with the whole action. Look, Bobby, I don't know if you've ever watched any of the Amish Dave's old videos. He's got a shelf with action figures on it. I don't. So I'm like, I don't know. I got to find a spot, I guess.
Call IKEA.
Yeah, I have no idea. We'll have to figure it out. Yep, that's right, Britt Baker. Yep. Wish you guys a Merry Christmas, and also those in the chat. Thank you, Kathy. Yep. As the British want to make peg warmers at the local Walmart. Who knows, man? Who knows? I know that there's a community, like, you know, in a lot of these collecting things. There is for the wrestling guys. There's actually more guys that collect wrestling action figures than collect cards.
Yeah.
No, like
Oh, yeah.
by a lot. They really love the, like, no joke. Like, this is one of many series. Like I said, I appreciate it just in the spirit of which it's given. Like, I appreciate it regardless. What I'll probably do, Bobby, actually, is I'll probably put it on the desk when I do the videos where I record it. I'll probably just set it there, and that's probably the perfect spot for it. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
That's what I meant in
so
the
I don't have to
background.
try to figure out how to hang it. I'll just put it in the background there, and that'll be
If
like
we don't like the
fit.
card you're showing, we can look at something else.
It solves everybody's problem. 2024, we're enhancing the experience for all parties involved.
You know, it's kind of funny. I went to the last, what was it, toy show. People had their whole booth set up with just figures. I walked by and went, that's all? That, what? Really?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Like, it's a community, but like the ones that are hardcore though, they know the variants, they know the chase figures, they know like oh, like the dual pack sets, and like, oh, this one's rarer than this one. I've never got into that because I was sitting there like, if I went down that dark path, it's like, it does take up way more space. It's not a little more space. It's like each one of those is a little box, like you saw from that thing. Now imagine that's one. So now imagine you got a dozen or 2 dozen of them. I'm like, where the hell are you going to put this?
You should see the McFarlane hockey figures that people collect. It's just like a wall.
I have a handful. I have a handful from Medano, but I used to take them out. I took them out of the package because I'm like, look, I can put them on the little shelf like that. I know.
Exactly.
I know.
It's horrible.
I know. It's a fact.
All my
the wrestling belts are collected as well. That's true.
Are all taken out of the boxes and the bases assigned. So that's what I do with them.
Oh, that's good. Yeah.
Yeah.
The problem that I would have is I wouldn't be able to do that with one of the chase ones though. One of the variants, I wouldn't try that because those ones are way more expensive. Because if you just buy the base version, you got it for retail and whatever, who cares?
Does it ruin it like a card or what?
Definitely. Yeah. You take it out of the chase one out of the package. It's still it's not it's a fraction. It's a fraction.
The Jerry Cheevers one that I have signed is the chase. It's the white jersey instead of black. So I don't care. That's what I wanted to do with it. So it looks nice signed. It's sitting up there with the rest of them. It looks great. But if you're a collector of just, these types of toys or figures and things, then you definitely don't want to mess around with the chase ones because they are rarer and they will eventually.
How much are they?
More money.
Like the chase compared to the regular one.
Well, if you get it in the store, you get it for retail. You can buy it, but the thing is, they made them in lower production, so it'd be like one every 15, 20 cases, every 30 cases. So like for every 100 of the normal one, there'd be one of the chase, be something of that effect. So it just depends on the character, or the player or whatever it is and what chase it is. I know some of them can go for hundreds of dollars comparatively to like $10-15 of the normal one. So yeah, big difference, right?
$10-15 on a chase is not even a chase, right? So it's
So for the regular one, I take it out of the package and I just set it up on the shelf, easy. But yeah, I'm not going to pay a premium to then take it out of the package. It's like, you already paid a premium because it was the chase. Wrestling belts are collected as well. That is a fact. 3 or 4 Baker figures. I think there's more than that now. And a chase. That's true. There you go. Hockey barn and back, baby. Beers and cheers all around. Love it. Good evening, Orlando. Chase limited to 5 or 10, some 5,000. Now, speaking of someone who knows some chase related items, perfect timing. So we're going to actually enhance on the and comics in the name. Neo Cards and Comics. Good evening, sir. How are you?
What's up, boys?
Hey, what's up, Neil?
Good evening.
Neo, the comic apocalypse is upon us. What's going on? What's happening?
It's the end times. So it's all over.
Yeah. So I can give a little background though, but if you'd like to, you can. It's one of those things where we've had the Superfractor thing this past week that came back into vogue for the 457th time. It's not the first time it's happened, but yours is more interesting for me because it undermines the people's confidence in the greater. Because depending on what the answer is and what the issue is, it's a bigger problem. Do you want me to lay the groundwork on it, or do you want to set it up for us?
You can go ahead, and then I'll kind of fill in the gaps.
Sure. So really, long story short, I got a chance to watch a couple of videos just to get it, including your buddy Swaggle Haas. That's how it should be said, by the way. You got to emphasize the Haas.
Let's call him Swags.
Hey, fair enough. But anyway, so I watched a couple of videos just to get caught up on it, and what it came down to is that some folks did a little bit of investigative work and discovered that some of the graded comics, they found some examples of some graded comics that, from what it looks like they got removed from the holder, which is obviously an issue, but then replaced and then sent in for reholdering, and they were able to bypass it into CGC and get it into new holders, which obviously enhances the value and allows you to do the old switcheroo. There's a lot of downstream impacts if this goes by, and that's the problem. And obviously, you can do that with very expensive comic books, which you can take a modest investment in something and then do the old switcheroo and suddenly make your money. And then you've got a good one outside of the thing, and you can send that one in for grading, and now you get a twofer. Now you get a nice copy of one, and then you were able to do the switcheroo with the other. So in effect, you doubled the population of this through some fraudulent means, let's say.
So the question I would have is, how did they find this out, or how was this discovered?
So a couple things. I guess to get back to the swap books, we don't know if they're, or it's a little bit of all of the above. Are they physically swapping the books, or some people are thinking maybe they figured out a way to swap the label. So the book is not leaving the case, but they figured out a way to swap the labels out and then send it in the reholder. To answer your question, Bobby, how this got figured out was Manu. He runs the 9.9 newsstand on Instagram. He's co-hosted a bunch of streams with Justin Spidey Hits and Marvel Card stuff. He is hyper focused on newsstand and Mark Jewelers comics, which is a very
unique.
It is very much a niche inside a niche inside a niche. It's like I only collect 1990s basketball refractors of all NBA players. Like it is, you're in the weeds of the weeds of the weeds on this. So those guys are very hypersensitive to whenever one of those things comes to market, because they're very rare, especially in a 9.8 grade, which is basically a PSA 10 equivalent. And one came to market and it sold for like $15,000-$16,000, which the price is, that's about what something like that would potentially go for. Where the first red flag popped up is GPA, which is basically the comic version of Market Movers or Card Ladder. They track the cert numbers on the sales. So when you look at their sales pricing history, it shows you the price when it was sold, and it also puts the cert number off to the right, so you can see the cert number. Since this book never sells, this is the only copy to be recorded in GPA basically ever. The red flag is when they searched for it, you saw the $16,000 sale, and then 6 months ago there was a $3,000 or like a $2,500 sale of the same cert number. So people were very confused on why those two things would be. Basically, what happened was they went back and looked at that cert number at 2,500. The one that sold at 2,500 was marked as a newsstand. It was an Amazing Spider-Man 252. Marked as a newsstand, but it was not marked as a Mark Jewelers, whereas the one that sold for $15K was a newsstand and a Mark Jewelers, which is a unicorn. People looked a lot closer and they realized the two books were not the same. The one thing about comics that is a lot different than cards, you can lay two equivalent grades next to each other and you can find enough differences between the two to kind of match up that these are not the two same things in the holders. So immediately they're like, this book that sold for $2,500 in a CGC 9.8 that was marked newsstand but not Mark Jewelers was super clean, beautiful copy. The one that sold for $15,000 had a couple little minor things on the corners, just did not look like a 9.8 book.
Like the Gretzky 10, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Right. So then, you know, as always, like we've talked about many times, you know, the blowout form people remain undefeated on stuff like this. The CGC form is the blowout form for comics. They remain undefeated on stuff like this. So Manu found this one and posted about it. And what we all quickly realized was that the book was swapped out and reholdered, and the timelines kind of matched up for when everything sold. So then people did a deep dive on this guy's eBay sold history, much like the Bowman draft fiasco that's going on now. Because it seems like these people are stupid and post all these things sequentially or simultaneously. And basically the internet said, we are going to research every single one of these books and find others that are sideways. And then the more people are digging, I think that forum thread is like 60 or 70 pages deep now. It keeps getting worse and worse, basically, where they're finding more and more and different sorts of things. The one that has kind of made it mainstream is, because that Mark Jewelers thing is pretty niche. There's the latest one, and the one that kind of really blew it up was a Hulk 181, which is the first appearance of Wolverine. That book is notorious for, there's a Marvel value stamp inside of it and a lot of times people would clip that out because you could send it in for stuff.
Okay.
So CGC will grade and slab that, but they put it in a green label to denote that that's been removed, and they sell for 30%, maybe 40% of what a regular blue label would sell for.
Mhm.
So this guy had a 9.0 blue label on his sold listings that went for $7,000. Same thing, duplicate cert numbers on the GPA search. Someone looked at the old one that sold, the books did not match. So then what Ryan, who runs the Automatic Comics YouTube channel, did was, in his spare time, because once again, the internet remains undefeated, he, and a lot of us are speculating this, is that, boy, you could really, if you figured out a way to swap these books out, you could target high-grade Hulk 181s with the value stamp missing, because the book would look good and clean on the cover and in the case, because they grade it like an 8.5 or a 9.0. It's just the value stamp's missing.
Right.
So he went through and looked at every Hulk 181 in a green label that's sold for like the last 3 months in a medium to high grade, and found the exact same book. There was a corner crease on it. There was a couple other very particular things. Sold like 3 months ago for $2,500 or something. And that's the book that got swapped in to the blue label case. So essentially, like Carlos said, they buy the 9.0 Hulk for 10 grand. They buy the green label in a similar close grade for 1/3 of the price, switcheroo it, send it off in the CGC. Either they're swapping the book or swapping the label, and then they're requesting a reholder on it, because a lot of these have custom labels on it when the original book doesn't. Or maybe they're slightly cracking the case a little bit or something. Who knows? But they're sending it in for the reholder. CGC is reholdering it, putting it in a brand new blue label cert, and the book inside the actual case is not what the label necessarily represents itself to be.
Wow,
So,
that's big.
and now, like I said, people are digging, and the list of items is growing. This person sold a lot of very high value stuff, and it's been close to a week, or maybe over a week now since when this all started. I think it actually came out last Saturday, is when Manu first posted, or maybe late Friday night. And there's been crickets from CGC. Like, people can give Fanatics a lot of crap on this stuff, but at least they responded quickly to the Bowman draft situation. We might not like the answers, but CGC has said zilch, nothing.
So have they found any others?
Oh yeah,
beyond this guy I meant.
Oh no, I mean, well, that's the thing. No, because all we know, it's easy because we have this guy's eBay completed listing thing. So you could take that particular book. Like, you have to have it's a needle in a haystack without having at least a starting point. So when you have this guy's sold listings, you can take that as the starting point and work backwards. And even that is tricky. Like, I think Ryan said he looked at like 300 sold listings of Hulk 181 before he found the one that matched. And that's with knowing what he was kind of looking for. So yeah, it would be near impossible without having this guy's eBay sold listings to work off of. But just his sold listings alone have continued to find issues. Oh, and then there was another one that they found, which was a completely different, same seller. I forget the individual details of how they pieced it out. But the guy bought, this is the same seller doing all this other stuff. He bought this was a Hulk 181 again. He bought one that was missing an internal page. So the whole page 10 was missing out of the book. Figured out a way to buy or to marry in a page 10 from another copy of Hulk 181, sent it in and got it holdered as a blue label. Nothing wrong with it. So like, this guy's doing multiple, or a girl, I guess, I don't really know. This person's doing multiple shenanigans and slipping it through on CGC.
And they only have one eBay account, really?
Well, that's the scary part is that, and the same thing with the backdooring. This probably isn't the only person doing this. This is just the one dumb enough that got caught.
Yeah.
So let me ask a couple of questions here playing off of that. So thank you for the synopsis, Neo. That's a good start. That's now you have earned the and comics in the Neo cards and comics. So this is your moment. This is the moment. This is what we bring you in for the expertise on.
So it's the NCC.
So a couple of levels we'll touch on, because we'll get to the kind of the implication, the downstream potential impact, because that's really important, because that could be one major thing that could come to it. But first, to your point, CGC hasn't responded yet, which obviously is a very important thing. and we've criticized them before. So let me bring it back over to Eric's favorite. Beckett had their own issues with holders back in the pandemic period. And to this day, we still haven't heard shit. But Beckett is not exactly in the best place, despite Eric's best efforts. It's not working out. It's not looking so good for those guys. It's not so hot. Communication was a major issue for them. They did a very poor job. They basically gave you a case study on what happens with bad communication, and they're less relevant than they've ever been. I'm not pinning it specifically on that. They've done a million other things, but it wasn't a good start if this was an issue that, to our understanding, has not been resolved. So if you're CGC, though, let's get back to CGC. If you're talking about them, it's a situation where I can imagine being in that office. First thing is this comes out. Now, step one is figure out, like, to your point, which is it? Is it that they compromised the holder or figured out how to switch the labels? So first, what did they do that allowed this to even? So you have to do like your own internal investigation, figure out like what the hell is going on? How did this even happen? Second, is it easy to replicate? There's a couple of scenarios that we could go down depending on that, but depending on the answer to that question. But then to your point about the communication thing, I think it would probably have been wise, though, to give like the bare minimum PR. Hey, we're aware of it and we're doing an investigation right now to find out more. And we will keep you updated in these, see our information here, and we're going to give you further updates shortly. To give the bare minimum, like, hey, we're acknowledging it and we're going to try to figure it out, because it could be potentially very problematic for them if it turns out that their holder was compromised in some way that can be easily replicated. That's a problem.
And Neil, they're the top grader, and I think there's only one other one that's respectable underneath it, right?
Yeah. So comics are not like cards where we actually have. I mean, PSA is obviously the dominant force in card grading, but there is like semi-legitimate competition if you want there to be. Comics, it's really CGC, and to a much lesser extent CBCS, which is Beckett. That's Beckett's comic book grading division. And then there's a couple like fly-by-night ones, but they would almost be like on the HGA level, and they are treated with zero respect. Mm-hmm. So even with all this going on, I still don't know how much. I guess it could go super sideways, but there's not really like a great viable option. I mean, a CBCS book would sell for it'd be equivalent to like a PSA 10 versus like a BGS 9.5 difference. I mean, you're talking like a 30% drop at least in like same book, same grade, very similar to the sports card. And shocking, CBCS has all the same issues that Beckett has. Like their communication is terrible. Their general PR, communication, turnaround times, pricing, like all the same stuff that we deal with Beckett, copy and paste it to CBCS. It's just less people care because less people use them. Now, they just did roll out a new holder, which people seem lukewarm on. Okay. It came out at New York Comic Con. I haven't had hands on one yet, and they came out with a new label. And once again, people were kind of like, oh, okay, this is fine, whatever. But there is no real competition to CGC in comics, not to the level, like even like what, SGC does, 10% of PSA's numbers in a month. Like it would be probably even more drastic than that on the comic book side.
Yeah. Now let me pose this question, because obviously, again, it's a different space, but the issue is still the same kind of issue, in the sense that if it turns out that there is a situation where it's been undermined, it undermines confidence, which can obviously be a huge impact, because you've got a bunch of CGC stuff. You collect comics, you collect, your X-Men keys and your different categories of comics that you collect. Is it mainly X-Men, or are there a bunch of other
X-Men? And I have a decent amount of Spider-Man stuff too, but X-Men's the primary. Marvel in general is the primary.
Yeah. Higher prices,
Regardless, though, if you take some of your key issues and the holder that it's in gets undermined, it hurts value, it hurts perception, it hurts all these things, and it's a big issue. That's why it's kind of rattled the cage, because like I said, I watched those colors of the dramatic end day scenario thumbnails and things that have amused me. I've kind of enjoyed it, and it's one of those things where inside of that space, like, look, we even got ham and eggers, randos that decide, look at this guy right here. Who's this dude right here? Collectibles dad. I never heard of this guy. But look, even he's getting in on the game. He's got nothing better to do. I don't know who this dude is, but I don't think he's got a big future in this content game. But good luck to him. Good luck to him in that. But when you're even getting to the point that it's like you go outside of the normal comic book realm, it's something that becomes interesting. But let me ask you this question, and this is more speculation than anything else. And like I said, even to the point that Neo Cards and Comics was wordedly demanding answers on the X. It's terrible. Like, it's terrible, these things that are happening. But if the worst case scenario comes out and it is a compromised holder issue, what do you do if you CGC? There's the PR side of it of what you say. But then if it turns out it is a compromised holder that can be exploited, again, this is like a worst case scenario for them.
Yeah.
If it's compromised holder, do you do a recall? Like, so there's the PR answer, and then there's what do you actually do?
So I think if it is a compromised holder, they actually wouldn't say that.
No,
they would say.
I would agree with that. I'd agree with that.
The statement would basically probably be something like this: there was an issue with one particular submitter. Yada yada yada. We have fixed whatever policy and procedure they were taking advantage of. If you have any books with this certification number on it, please contact this email address. Something something something. Buy them back, and then 3 months from now there'll be some press release about some new feature on the CGC holder. Like
I could see
that's how
that,
you would do it. You're not going to say like, oh, by the way, you could pull the top apart, slip the label out, and squeeze it back together if you do X, Y, or Z thing.
Oh, I agree. But the thing is, just thinking about it from a perspective of liability, it would be, again, this is worst case scenario. We're speaking in the sense that it turns out to be a worst case scenario. If that's the case, though, you could say that publicly, but you still got the problem that you've got a lot of high profile comic books that are in these easily compromised holders. And it's actually worse in a way if somebody discovers that on their own, that you gave this like, fluff PR answer, but then they discover that on their own and go, by the way, yeah, it's totally compromised. And that's why I almost posed the question, like, what do you do if you're CGC? If it turns out to be the worst case scenario, you still have to, even if you fix the problem with the holder, you figure out what the issue is, you fix it. Then how do you get people? There are some comics where you're going to want to switch them into this new, more tamper-proof holder just to cover your ass.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that this is new ground. I mean, we've seen this. How many times has the PSA holder been like, not necessarily compromised like this, but there's been issues where it's like, hey, we need to update this because this one people can copy all of a sudden now. Or, I mean, look at Beckett's The Playbook, just do nothing and eventually people will forget, I guess. I don't,
I like to occasionally bring it back up though from time to time.
Yeah.
By the way,
I mean,
the Beckett one hasn't been fixed, just so we're clear.
I mean, PSA's done stuff over the years, and eventually people that are doing fraudulent things have figured out a way to duplicate. It's a different situation. They're copying the slab or the label and making counterfeits of it. So it's a little different, but yeah. PSA adjusts, and there's still things that live in those old labels. But to that point, I mean, there are older cards that get a premium in a new PSA Lighthouse label versus an older PSA label. Like that is true. 100% a thing. So I think you could probably mirror those two situations together to some degree. This might be more extreme, but and once again, I don't think we would ever know that. They are never going to say that it's the holder. They're going to cite that it's their.
You're an influencer Illuminati. You should have all the answers. You should be in the secret boardroom. It's got to be the Stonecutters thing. You sing the song, and then they tell you all the secrets. What's the deal?
They will cite something along the lines of poor policy and procedure around reholders, where they're not getting looked at all, or whatever the case might be.
Neil,
that's what
it can only be the holder.
Yeah, it's 1,000% something with the holder. The scary part is more so that like this is out there now. Like, do people try to replicate it? Because now people know, like, clearly, like, listen, 100%. they might not say it, but like everybody knows there's an issue with the holder. Now, people might not know the magic trick to duplicate it, but you can guarantee there's probably people sitting at home in a basement right now attempting it.
Oh yeah,
on some cheap slabs. They're probably buying up, $15 slabs and saying, "Okay, let's see what we can do here, boys."
If they have a sonic sealer, they might be able to re-sonic seal it. So at that point, how do you?
I don't know how CGC slabs are sealed. I don't know if they're sonically sealed or not.
Probably.
Mm-hmm. So let me.
I think the bigger problem. I think the bigger problem overall is something you just mentioned. How in the hell did they get, like, aside from whether they popped the case open or swapped the comic itself or the label or whatever, how did they get sent in? And these were significant changes with the Mark Jewelers getting added to the label that wasn't there. Okay, that's pretty significant. And it's getting sent in as a reholder. How was this, like, there's images done when things are graded. Even if they didn't look the book over, the people on the internet that are calling this out are simply looking at photographs and comparing apples to oranges and seeing that this doesn't match up. There was definitely something wrong, and it should fall on CGC because it was their job to do this, and they failed miserably because there should have been a photo there that they could have matched it to and seen that they weren't the same damn books. Like,
yeah, I
it
don't
should
know
have
when
never happened.
CGC started imaging. I mean, I know they do it now, but I don't know how far their database goes back on imaging.
Mhm.
But I mean,
There's
on the
people
sports card
finding
side,
it
we know
on
that
these
these companies
databases
are.
of sales.
Yeah, but I mean, you
Sales
think
is us
PSA
taking a
and
picture.
SGC are pulling up eBay sold listings when they get a reholder, and there's no way that's happening. Like, let's be realistic here.
Well, maybe
Well, the
they
one-
should because it's got
Well,
themselves
what
at
they
a
should
pretty big
do and what they
pickle.
do, is a different thing. But I'm just saying, like, we really think now PSA now obviously has like they're doing the image scanning on everything. But if you send something that they slabbed 2 years ago, there's not going to be an image for that for them to reference. And you would only be able to find this even if you said go look at sold listings, you would still only be able to find the sold listing if it's sold publicly. Like it would have to sell on eBay or one of the auction houses or one of the selling platforms. If it's sold at if someone submitted it and it never sold on a public internet platform, it sold at a show or secondhand or whatever, there's not going to be any record of that anywhere.
Mhm. So let me ask you a question here, based on just what we're talking about, and we'll get back to rounding questions on it as well. Does any of this, given what we know right now, we'll find out more as time goes on. To your point, maybe likely they'll give us a very high level kind of, play down excuse, or they'll still quiet for a bit and before doing it. Does it concern you at all for, I don't know if you've got anything else you're targeting, but does it concern you at all if you were looking after any potential books that you wanted to buy for yourself? Anything that was high? If it's low end, one of the comments here, Tom's comment, and I'll go up here. I have plenty. It doesn't stop me from buying deals because I play on the low end. I think if you're buying reasonable comic books of reasonable, same thing with cards. Whenever we talk about an issue or whatever, you're probably not having too many problems with $10, $50, $100 cards, even $500 cards most of the time. It's in the upper end where the incentive is there for someone to cheat, and the profit margin is so potentially huge. There's more incentive for people to play around. But if you're buying a key, something that maybe is something that you'd make all those wheeling and dealings to get this big one for your collection, all of a sudden it gets a little more interesting. Same way as high-end vintage gets really interesting and kind of murky.
Yeah, and I don't play. I mean, I have some high-end books, but I don't play on like that $10, $15, $20,000 level.
Okay.
But some of the stuff is going on in the. I mean, they found a. I don't remember the details on this one because this one was one of the later breaking ones. They were looking at an Uncanny X-Men 266, which I think it was a newsstand. That might be like a $1,500 book, which is not. That's not cheap, but that's not high end. That's the first appearance of Gambit. That's one of the most graded books out there, and that's the other thing that this guy is specifically targeting. Is he is going after books that transact a lot.
Yeah,
like Hulk 181. Though it sells for a lot of money, it is not hard to find that. That is like the 89 Upper Deck Griffey. Like everyone wants one. There's a billion of them out there, but everyone wants it, so the price is high. Same with like a 266 X-Men's first appearance of Gambit. There's a billion of them graded. The Spider-Man issues that he's going after are all stuff from the late 80s, early 90s. They're all high demand books, but they transact all the time. So they got to get lost in the sauce of, oh, this book sells. A Hulk 181, there's probably, I mean, in 3 months of a high grade, like an 8.0 or better, Ryan had to look through 300 sold listings, and that's just what sold on eBay and a couple other platforms. So these things transact a lot. So to the commenter's point, like, yeah, if you're buying $100 slabs, $500 slabs, you're probably fine. Yeah. If you're buying something bigger, is it going to slow me down? No, but it'll give me pause before I pull the trigger. I'm going to do more research on the cert number than I would in the past. Before I would look at it, glance it over. Okay, this looks like it checks out. Nothing's crazy, but I wouldn't do a deep dive on the cert, just beyond like making sure that the cert's active. Okay, but now I'm gonna, you're damn straight. I'm going the GPA before I buy a couple $1,000 book and searching for the cert number to see are there any weird transactions with it. And that's no guarantee because, like I said, if they bought it in person, it's a ghost.
Right.
Excuse me. There'd be no way to track it.
This whole thing is just so surprising to me because of the fact I have very limited knowledge on comic book grading and the cases that they're in. But
And hockey.
I don't know anything about that sport. What I do know is that it's not even possible, from what I can understand, to crack a legitimate card, a legitimate graded card, PSA, SGC, the other top ones, without causing damage. And I can't believe the top grader, who is the the PSA in comic books, has something that is so easily disrupted without putting a scratch on it. I mean, you got to go get the power tools out and to get a PSA slab open. Like, I don't think I've heard of anything like someone was able to pry a legitimate company slab open, take the card and label out, and put new stuff in. There's plenty of other scams, but it takes a small miracle just to get these things open and not damage the card. I can't believe it's that simple to get a comic book one open, and you don't even leave a scratch on the plastic.
Well, and that's the thing that we don't know, because we don't know what they're sending back into reholder. Like, CGC slabs are obviously way bigger. They're way thicker. They're not as sturdy, and it's not like when you hold a PSA slab or a Beckett slab where, like, you could go like this, and it's not like you can't bend a Beckett slab in your hand. No. Even a PSA slab's tricky, an SGC slab, whatever. A comic book slab, if I went like this hard enough, I could probably crack this, because it's just surface area. It's the, you know what I mean? Like, there's just way more that they have.
Oh, you're starting to scare Eric. It's starting to sound like science. Surface area. Wait, whoa.
We can science, but we're not. We're
not mathing.
So the structural integrity is just not the same as a card because of the nature of the product inside of it. That being said, could it be better? Obviously, but what we don't know is so they're sending these things in the reholder, depending on how they're getting open. Like, it is not uncommon to have a CGC case with like chips and stuff on it, because when you ship a comic book. Like, when you get comic book shipped to you, you get like 8 pounds of bubble wrap with it. Like, you have to bubble wrap the hell out of these things to keep them safe. I've seen plenty of CGC unboxing videos where people are getting them straight back from CGC, and they're pulling them out, and the corners are chipped or cracked, or there's loose plastic places. Because once again, it's the nature of the size of the book and the materials. Like, obviously, they could probably be using better materials for it, but that's a lot of plastic compared to a PSA slab. So they could maybe be leaving a little bit of a crack on it, or a little bit of, maybe it does look like that it got busted up a little bit. We don't know, because sending a book in like that to be reholdered isn't exactly the craziest thing in the world.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like, if I had a slight crack on this and it was enough that maybe I could get the label in and out, or so the thing with comics is it's kind of like a Beckett slab. The comic does not sit loose in here. There's what's called an inner well. So there's like a slab inside a slab.
Yeah, it's kind of like Tom's question here, talking about the inside. That's what he's curious about. So
so you can, I don't know how well you could see it. It's really hard to see through the plastic, but you can kind of see it there a little bit.
Yep.
So basically, think of a Beckett slab. So people were speculating either A, they were getting the label out, or B, maybe they figured out a way to slip the inner well out, because you could get the comic book out without damaging it, because you're basically pulling the card out in the sleeve. So if they were going from the bottom, and maybe they figured out a way to get this open enough to slide the book out, you wouldn't damage the book because it's inside the inner well. And then you could take the other one, the bad copy, and slide it inside its inner well. And then, maybe they're not even messing with this top. Maybe it's going in from the bottom a little bit. Maybe they're cracking the bottom corner and saying, oh, the slab dropped. That's very common. If I drop this is toast probably. If you drop a PSA slab, 9 times out of 10, it's fine.
Where's Tim when you need him? Anyways.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Well,
I'm going to read a
question here, Neil, is like, I know the top, the label on that is it's compartmentalized between the comic and the thing. Correct. So slipping the label out is probably the easiest thing, because you'd only need a minimal amount of space. And if you use somewhat of a vacuum to kind of grab it and take it out, put it back in. Yeah. And it doesn't open up like a PSA or whatever. It opens all up. It's that first part and the second part. That's 2 different pieces. So it would be label more so than slipping the whole comic, because then you really have to bend it.
And maybe it's both. I mean, that's what people are
both.
speculating. Maybe if you figured out a way to get the top open, you probably figured out a way to get the bottom open.
But you don't have to open much of the top. If you open a little bit from the side, you can get that thing out by easily sliding something in there and take the label out and slide it back in.
Yeah,
minimal
amount
amount
of way to get it to set right. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Let me read a couple of these comments here. We'll get caught up. Thank you all for the comments. I did try to show some as we were chatting, but let me go through them here quick. Dufix says, is there a chance that these are counterfeit comic slabs being made, not existing ones being cracked?
I don't think so, because they wouldn't need to buy the original copies like they are. Like that's
good.
That's the thing there.
Sure.
Math here. Yeah.
On the slabs, are there QR codes? What do they use for the scanning?
Okay.
Yeah, there's a QR code on the back.
Yep.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Perfect.
That
Very good.
So what people were talking about is that you need to, they might need to come up with something where maybe the simple fix is that either there's something like the cert number is maybe imprinted on the inner well somehow, even if it's like clear, like just stamped into it so it doesn't take away visually from the book.
Mm-hmm.
And then that would help curtail some of this, because the inner well stamp would need to match the cert number that's on the actual label itself. Like that would honestly just be, even if they didn't want to change anything else, they could figure out a way to mark the inner well with the same cert number that's on here. And that, in theory, you would think would cut down on a lot of that, because the inner wells, if you crack that open, you'd be able to tell instantly.
I always thought that if they would seal foil around the outer part of the border, and when you disconnect that foil, you're going to separate it and it can never go back right to the same way. So I always thought that was a great idea, but nobody does.
They could, but then, like I said, these things break legitimately. That's not uncommon. So,
well, it would be inside the seal, not the outside. When they do the seal, then as soon as it comes, anyways.
Yep, makes sense. I think also it kind of plays into Neo's point, though. The design of that slab does allow for some other possibilities and things that you could do. It might be a wise thing for them to start incorporating, maybe something like what he said, but you could also incorporate some things in it maybe aren't as easy to see. Stuff that a counterfeiter or whatever would know about, but stuff that the company itself would be able to look for to be able to indicate something's been tampered, something's been messed with. I'm a big fan of anything where it tamper proofs it, but maybe it doesn't make it so obvious that it's tamper proof. But the moment you've done it, we can see it. If you know what you're looking for, that's where the company would want to have that information. I like the rare grading callback. There you go. If you get a rare grading slab, it ain't coming out, and we're also not reholdering it.
A black light is perfect. With all the bobbleheads now being sold and the high prices they're getting, is phenomenal. Using a black light, you can see all the repaints and the touch-ups. So you can never tell. So when you're buying something online, especially a bobblehead, and you're paying like $2,000, $3,000, they ask, do you blacklight it? And if the guy gets it and he blacklights it and he goes, no, it's all touched up. And the guy doesn't know because he doesn't have a blacklight. What's he going to do? And these guys carry around blacklights to shows to see if they've been touched up, because that is very common for bobbleheads. So everybody's getting a little smarter as we went on in time.
There you go. Dufek says this could be an extinction moment for paper slabs. So I think this relates to if it was the actual label that was being removed. Although I'm deeply concerned that you would even invoke creating, like, it's not a coaster anymore. Now at that point, it's literally for a dinner plate. Like it's too much. It's too much surface area. We're back to the surface area problem. Like, what do you need, an entire tray of drinks? Like, that's not appropriate. That seems wrong. That's just no.
I still agree with that, though. I like, as we know, I like the engraved tag slabs. I think that slabs look great, and I think that is definitely one way to try to solve this problem. So, if tag has the capacity of engraving their slabs, I'm sure the number one company in comics has that budget and technology to do it too. So I think that would be a great way to try to avoid some of this and get rid of
nobody has tags technology. They have it all trademarked.
Yeah.
Oh, it's true. Exactly. Yeah, they got a lot of patents.
How long has the comic grading been around now too? 15 years?
Yeah, probably ish. I forget when it really got in vogue, mid to early 2000s. But it really didn't catch on until probably like I think CGC's been around
10
for
years,
like
yeah.
15 years, but I think it's really been in the last like 10 that
Yeah.
it got a little bit more popular, and then it really took off. It really started going pre-COVID, and then kind of like sports cards, the boom
Went
happened.
crazy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, quick
As
question
prices
here,
went
just
up, people wanted the third-party verification.
Now, quick question here, based on kind of Sean's comment. One of the pieces of this puzzle that we talked about was the reholdering thing. Now, obviously, the idea of the reholder isn't to do a full regrade. That's not the premise. But is it obviously it'd be great to double check everything, whatever. But would it maybe make sense as a process change for them to like give it a quick glance over if the book doesn't, like, just on immediate look, if you go like that's not an 8, or that, like, wait a minute, that you see something immediate, like the moment you try to rehold it, like there is no way, then you know something, something's a little bit wrong just on the immediate glance if it's very obvious and overt.
My guess is that the people doing the reholdering are not comic book graders. They're just experts in opening a slab, putting it in a new slab, and resealing it.
Yeah, more than likely. General labor, I think.
No, for sure.
Like if you're a general laborer, you might not know the first thing. Like, I mean, I've spent a ton of money on comic books. I don't know that I could sit here and tell you the difference between a 6 and an 8. I'm not a comic book grader, even though I'm vested in the space. I've never taken the time and the nuances to learn the degrees. Now I know a 9.8 versus like a 9.0. I can see the differences in that. But when you start getting in those weird middle grades,
9.6,
like even sports
9.8.
cards, sometimes I have a hell of a time on like, why is this a 6 versus an 8? I mean, like on some of that mid grade range stuff.
Makes sense.
I was actually more shocked when you talked about them replacing, I think you just, random page 10, and the company still graded it high when it was, has been found out that an entire page somehow was replaced.
Well, they didn't find it out. That's the problem.
Well, afterwards, is that what I'm getting? That
correct? The internet detectives figured that out afterwards.
Reholder, yeah.
It's
basically they married a page and the grader missed it.
Yeah,
that was not a reholder. That was
Wow.
So there's two scams going on, all by the same person. There's the reholder thing, which is what we've kind of been talking about, and then the second thing was they bought a copy of a Hulk 181 missing a page, married a page from another copy of that book, sent it in for grading legitimately, well, legitimately in air quotes, and got it slabbed like a normal submission, but it got the blue label, not a purple or green label.
I mean, you'd have to do that. You'd have to bend go to the center, bend the staples, lift all the double pages out, put it back in, put all the pages back in, and press the staples down.
And match the page color back, because comic books all age differently. Like even the same copies, some will be more yellow, some will be more white.
I have messed around with
Go on.
Here we go.
Sounds like an admission. Go on.
With Bruins programs, right? Where I had 2 banged up copies, and I've taken the good pages out, and I haven't sold them. Those are for me.
Yeah.
Brandon, I think we've got him on camera admitting it.
We do.
Let me tell you, if I
there's your end of the year.
You told you it was going to happen before 2024. Oh,
if I did try to sell it, only an idiot wouldn't realize that, it's a little loose and it's not really tight like it came out of the printing factory. I mean,
but there's plenty of comic books sold and graded that way, because you could just get a low grade. It would just be like a 3.0.
And the
one thing about comics, there's 1.5 copies of books that the whole spine is completely shredded on. You know what I mean? But in an AF-15, the first appearance of Spider-Man, a 1.5 in something that looks like your dog chewed on for a week is a $20,000 comic book. It'd be like getting a chewed up Mickey Mantle.
PSA 1, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, just because the books beat the hell doesn't mean that it gets a bad grade. And then, listen, you guys think that like the Kurtz Card Care guys are good on the sports card side. The comic book doctors are wild. Like the stuff that you can see them do that is legitimate, because you got to remember in comics, cleaning and pressing and stuff like that is 100% allowed. The grading companies offer it. You could pay CGC to clean and press your book. Like there's a different space in that sort, but there are things that are not allowed. Regardless,
I've seen
paper. The purple label comes in. That's right.
I've seen professional paper restorers. They can literally make pieces of paper come back.
Yeah,
stuff that was physically gone, and they were able to recreate it and make it look good and make.
Yeah, I've seen before and afters of stuff that it looks like are you literally a wizard? Like what? What is happening here? Yeah. So you could only imagine what they could do behind closed doors. To your point, Eric, like opening up some staples and replacing a page, it seems like it would be like this massive ordeal. For those guys, that's like a 5-minute project, probably.
Yeah.
Like that's how good these guys are at this stuff.
That's just
that is something that would not fly. Like if the grader caught that.
I just have never, and I don't do it with this, try to scam anyone. So I'm not doing it with the same type of care, I guess. But I've done it a bunch of times in my life, and none of them come out perfect that anyone would even guess that it was perfect. I mean, they're not. It's not as tight. It's just.
There's people that it's literally all they do is.
Yeah, it blows my mind
that's their job.
Cool. So that got a high grade. So somebody did that.
I got a 9.0. It was an 8.5. It was an 8.5.
That blows my mind more than someone figuring out how to replace a slab or crack it, one of those things. That kills me.
I'm actually less blown by that. I'm the opposite of you. I am more surprised that someone figured out the slab swap than I am that someone figured out how to marry a page in and get it past the grader. There's been rumors and speculations of that for years, like decades, because that predates grading. Like you could, I mean, in the 20 years ago in the 80s or 90s, someone could have found a busted up copy, swapped it, and it would have been way easier to pass off back then because you don't have professionals looking at these things. So there's been rumors and speculation of this in the comic book world for 30 years that stuff like this goes on.
It happens.
That's a question for you, Neo.
What's that?
So the one that 99 posted on Instagram that initiated this whole process, when that was caught, so I was trying to research around because we were talking about the scan thing. And when I pulled that cert up, and I know they do runs on the cert numbers, the interesting thing to me is it's showing that the grade date is June 26th of 2023. Has it been confirmed if this was like even the original initial graded copy was done recently and trickery happened, sent back, and then put on the market? Because I was just curious. I looked at a card I knew for a fact I had reholdered with SGC, and they keep the original grade date no matter if it's put in a new holder, whatever. That way you can still tell when the original grade happened. So if this was the original grade date of June of 2023, this person is not only scamming the hell out of people, but they're doing it quick.
Yeah, I don't know if that was the original grade date or not. I can't remember back from the research on it, but I mean, getting a 9.8 copy of a 252, finding that in the wild is not like the most unheard of thing in the world. So that wouldn't be that surprising. Or the thing that we don't know is this is the first time they've been caught. Is that a regrade of a 9.8 that they did this swap on before?
Mm-hmm.
Like that's the part that we don't know. Like this could be a redux of, because like Carlos talked at the very beginning, that's the whole other aspect of this. They have the good copy, they have the bad copy. They pull the good copy out, put the bad copy in, copies. And then they still have the good copy raw. They send that one back in, and maybe it gets the same grade. Maybe it doesn't.
Now you doubled up. You got.
And now you either got a free copy or you got another one to go off. Yeah. And so
you're basically creating new labels. You're increasing the pop report, substituting it with different
like money laundering in
original graded copies. But the key is that they're actually getting them to bump the label with the Mark Jewelers or whatever.
So the Mark Jewelers thing, what they did there was when they submitted that for the reholder, they sent it in for the reholder and said, "Oh, by the way, you guys
missed
missed
it."
the Mark Jewelers,"
Yeah.
which is not. It
Uncommon.
happens. This is not the first time that would get missed by. I mean,
Like
we all know these
PSA
grading companies make
mislabels,
mistakes.
SGC mislabels, sure.
Yeah. So
Everybody's mislabeled.
Yeah, that's not
Right,
like the
but
most
this-
unheard of thing ever to get a book come across your desk that says you guys forgot to denote that this is a Mark Jewelers. So like that's not like completely out of left field that would happen.
And these guys are
But
just
the
it's
same
another day at
account-
the office for them, right?
I'm sorry, what was that, Bobbles?
I was just gonna say the same account having that in those that many bumps that many times. I mean, because it sounded like it's
Here's the thing, though. Once again, I don't know. I mean, is reholder like grading? Do the books just get stacked in front of you and you don't know whose they are?
Or can
You know,
send
like
it
a
in for
grader
somebody
doesn't
else.
know. They just get a stack of cards set in front of them and say, "Do your thing." They don't know that it's John's. You know what I mean? Same thing on a reholder. I would imagine they probably keep that information private to not, so you don't know who the submitter is.
Send it
I
in for a
imagine
deal.
do you
it's
think
hidden.
this could be
I don't see how it could be an
the
inside
work of
job.
someone
That's where you're going.
inside?
No, because how are you going to guarantee that it's going to that person? Like I
Yeah.
have to
All right,
imagine they have
no,
a-
no. I'm
Pause for
thinking-
1 second. Pause. Everybody pause for 1 second. I'm just going to read a couple of comments. We got to, in spirit of the sports card dad Dustin, I got to read a couple of these comments. So hold on. Got to do this here. Neo seems to know a lot of this whole CGC slab process. Listen, you get collectibles dad on this. You stay in your lane, sports card dad. Stay in your lane. We've got the and comics guy here. Let's focus. All right, real quick.
Yeah, I don't
Also,
need a whole
cancel
second
Eric.
channel.
I appreciate that one. Cancel Eric. I appreciate that one. It's always included. Mike Petty here's got a good one. I think the one thing everyone misses about the restoration art pieces. So was comparison earlier in the chat talk comparison the art restoration versus the way it's perceived in these categories. Is that art restoration art pieces clearly disclose it, and I wouldn't give a shit. Don't disclose a simple fraud, which is fair. Like disclosure is really important. Like if you are doing a restored piece on those, and it is known that it's a restored piece, and everybody knows, and it's part of the provenance of the piece, it's accepted in that world. To your point about the pressing, I think they also, I don't know about the pressing, but I know that they've got, we talked about the different types of labels, but there are certain labels for certain types of books and certain types of work. What is the, like you've got the blue labels, but what are some of the other colors represent as far as differences?
Purple. That's it.
So purple is restored. So they have a restoration
that's-
label. So
that's
if
what I
you're
was looking
doing legitimate restoration, they do denote
Yeah.
that. They just don't consider cleaning and pressing restoration.
Right.
No.
But no, that's still an important distinction because,
Yeah.
oh, he pulled a Filmington. He's disappeared.
Oh.
He went in the darkness with Aaron Rodgers. But
Oh.
the point of though is that it does have a different label type, which corresponds to restoration. So they do acknowledge it. So if you got one with a purple label, then you know what you're getting into. In this situation, they flat out told you. So you still there, Neo, or you still hanging in the
No,
darkness?
I'm here. Just the camera batter. I don't know what happened.
That's all right. This is greatly ironic, though. In last year's end of year one, we had the Filmington where the battery died.
At least mine just went black. His had like the whole menu system up on the screen and everything.
That is true. That is true. That is a fact. So, it's petty larceny. I'm just scrolling through here.
But yeah,
Very
to circle back on that, like the cleaning and pressing is not considered altering. That's just the way in comics. And
Right.
part of it, and you know, where that comes from is, to be quite simple, they couldn't detect if a book was pressed. I mean, on some you could tell, but
Yes.
was it pressed or did it just happen to be sitting in someone's box for 20 years with a bunch of other comics stacked on top of it? Like, and it ties hand in hand with card cleaning. You know, the graders have said, if there's something on the card we can detect, we'll detect it. But in 99% of the cases, the card cleaning stuff people are using on Chrome cards doesn't leave a trace unless they're going to go all CSI card on it. And that's just not realistic.
No.
So that's kind of how it became acceptable. And in fact, Matt Nelson, who's the president of CGC Comics, his original job was a cleaning and pressing service.
Gotcha.
And then CGC hired him to start the comic division, and that's how they have a cleaning and pressing division. I mean, in comics, legitimately, you could just pay CGC to clean and press the book for you. That would be like paying PSA to spray up your card or whatever. And once again, there's certain things that are not allowed. You can't trim a comic. You can't color touch a comic. You can't, like, just like in the card space, you could cross lines. There's a lot of gray areas. And comics probably even pushes the gray areas harder because they kind of like open the door by saying you could do some of this stuff. Like there is some cleaning that is done on comics that is absolutely wild.
Yeah.
A lot of people will sit, like imagine sitting with certain erasers and rubbing dirt off the cover of a book, like very delicately for hours on end, where you'll see the picture where the guy starts with like one of those whole erasers of the length of like a pencil, and when he gets to the end of it, there's nothing left of it, and there's just like eraser crumbs everywhere. Like that's considered allowable to a degree. There's even some stuff, some things people do that I don't necessarily understand, where I've seen pictures where they'll take, to your point from earlier, Eric, they literally take the staples out and take every page out of the book. This falls more into the restoration side, but they'll restore the book back and put it all back together again, and it'll grade relatively high. It'll be purple label restored to denote what they've done, but it looks like a clean copy, and that's with them literally pulling the entire book apart and reassembling it.
And purple versus blue, the value difference, what is that, Neil?
It depends on what was done, but drastic.
Yeah.
And you're usually only seeing the other thing too is you're only usually seeing restoration on like super expensive books to begin with. So like a restored AF-15 is still going to be pretty pricey, like even in a low grade, just because of the nature of the beast. You're not going to see a restored modern or ultra modern, probably even something from the 80s and 90s. It's more in the silver and golden age.
Now, let me ask you, Neo, kind of an open-ended question. We can touch on anything else if folks in the chat have any, because we wanted to cover a lot of ground, because comics is not our expertise. I am interested, though, obviously, because the reaction to it, the downstream impact of crisis of confidence in a grader, though, the issue is still the same type of issue. In any kind of third-party authentication, it's still the same problem. Now, let me ask the question. We already talked about it earlier tonight. We joked about the Beckett thing. The reality is Beckett did nothing. They just kind of sat on. As far as we know, they have fixed nothing. We tried nothing. We're all out of ideas. That's Beckett. But so let me ask you this question, Neo. Then, where things sit right now, let's assume they figure out some kind of BS PR, answer at some point, or give like the bare minimum. But maybe things change. Maybe they don't change. Maybe, to your point, maybe we never hear about exactly what happened. Maybe they make some changes to the slab, under the cover of darkness, where you were a moment ago, in the meeting. The signals were given. I saw that. But assuming that happens, what do you see happening? Obviously, right now it's the hot topic for a lot of the comic guys. So I go Haas videos and such. Do they just sit back on it long enough for it to die down and then just quietly kind of figure it out and resolve it in the background, or does eventually something come of it beyond that? Just your opinion on what you think.
I think it's more they'll make some boilerplate response and then hope that it kind of fades to the background, and kind of like what I said earlier, 3 months from now, oh hey, we have a slightly changed slab with some increased security features that do X, Y, and Z thing that don't really mean anything at all. It has nothing to do with what happened 3 months ago, but just know that they're there. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. But I don't. Given the fact that they have no major competition, that's really the ultimate problem. Like that's really what it boils down to.
Well,
and Beckett as a company is just not positioned to take advantage of this. Like if they were a competently ran company, someone at CBCS could be sitting there going, "Now is our time to strike." But they're just not equipped to do that for Beckett reasons.
It seems like
there's just nobody else. So unless another major player came in, and even then, if someone brand new with a reputable name walked in today, they'd still be starting from scratch, like as a comic book grader.
So,
now, like
what you're saying,
if someone came in and like acquired Beckett or something, I don't know. Like Fanatics isn't going to get in the comic books, but let's say Fanatics bought Beckett tomorrow whole and said, okay, Beckett's our new sports card grading company, and also we're going to amp up the comic book side just because they're already there. I don't know, maybe something like that could move the needle, but that's still going to take a ton of time, because ultimately what this comes down to is resale value. And the other thing too is, as much as, so like this is obviously blown up on the YouTube space, it's all over Facebook groups and stuff like that. And I think in the card side too, we get really isolated in our little echo chamber bubble of content and social. And really that's probably a small piece of the pie. Like,
Oh, it is. It's 100%. Like I've made this argument a million times. The rank and file person has no idea about 99% of this shit. They don't care. They don't get it, and they go on about their merry day without complete ignorance of any of this.
yeah.
We'll talk about it until we're blue in the face, but they will never have a damn clue. They'll be like, "Wait, that happened? Yeah, that was 10 years ago, bro."
Yeah. So like Swags has done 3 videos on this. They probably have like 40,000 views combined between the 3 of them. Ryan at Automatic did one. His probably has, I think his has 12 or 14,000 views on it. And in the grand scheme of things, I don't know that that means a lot. Sadly. Like, I don't know that the average person attending a Comic-Con, buying a graded book, or even like a moderate to high-end collector, you know, if you're spending $50,000-$60,000 on high-end comic books, I don't know, are you sitting around watching a bunch of jokers talk about comic books on YouTube? I don't know. So I really, as big of a deal as it seems in this space, I don't know how much of a big deal it actually is. Like this, and I thought of this as the week went on, to circle back to the Bowman Draft Fanatics thing about, oh, well, they haven't put out an official statement yet. They did it through Mario, which when you think about it is genius, because the only people that heard about this are the people in that space and those circles, and the people that then take that information and aggregate it in the videos like us.
Mm-hmm.
So we're not going to put out a public press release on our Instagram page or Twitter, because then everybody knows about it. If Mike Mahan just calls Mario and says, "Hey, here's what we're doing, go ahead and post it on Twitter," then that just circles around the same area. Versus if they make a public statement on their official handles, now everybody knows about it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I
So
guess
same thing for this.
we get the Steve Hart thing when we had the 86 clear box. You know, wax was over, everything was bad. It's all Frankenstein boxes. It passed.
Yeah, people
It's up
SCR
resolved.
and us will crack a joke on a live stream about Steve Hart.
Now it's joke.
Someone will include the clip of from the box
Me.
opening with Logan. In a
Look,
video.
I'm not saying I have that on my StreamYard switchboard, Neo. Stop accusing me
I
of
think we
such
all
things.
do.
I think
we all
I
do.
might have. We all got duped. Agreed. Look. that's all
Yeah,
I'm saying.
I mean, we've all used "I've got duped" in a video somewhere, and yeah, to your point, it's like, when does no one cares about the BBC thing anymore? Like,
No.
But
Not
what's
now.
funny though, to your point, is that the Logan Paul video, that was seen millions of times and still didn't register.
and no one still cares.
And the world moves on. The
Now,
clock
part of
moves on
that,
and nothing
part of that could honestly be is how big of a deal is actually wrapped wax. Like, that is a niche inside a niche inside 3 more niches. You know what I mean? Like, it's not.
No, it was Pokemon though. Pretty
But I'm just
high-end.
talking more like it shook the confidence of the BBCE wrap more than it did sealed
That's it.
wax, you know.
I don't really think it's to your point. To the point though, is I don't think it did, because I think there's plenty of people still buying stuff in
Yeah.
the BBCE wrap and like,
But again, he's the only dealer who does that, or he's the only guy who grades. So at that point, you have no competition like CGC. They have no real competition below them.
Yeah.
What are you going to do? Is
but
it all
ironically, that makes
over?
it a good comp for this conversation. This
Yeah.
specific situation is that no one else, and we've talked about this at length. It's not an easy thing to do, even if you wanted to. Even if you said, "Oh, I'm going to take this up this mantle," it's like, actually, it's really hard. It's you can't really authenticate on open. Where the comic thing, you can do certain things. You can have principles, you can have standards, you can do all that. Somebody who's really good, the paper restoration point that we made earlier, is the equivalent of if somebody really is good and hell-bent on fooling you, there's a good chance that they'll be able to fool even the best experts if they're equally good at it, if not better. Because because they also know what to look for. So they also know what to avoid in order to tip you off.
Everything passes. Operation Bullpen, the signature thing, you know.
Yeah.
We don't even talk about it anymore. Bad signatures. Yeah.
Makes good
Marvel will
content
do
and
something.
temporarily.
Marvel will put out a new movie. Everyone will get mad that it's too woke, and then they'll all forget about this. Like, I mean, it's the same. It really is the same thing. I mean, look, like it's the end of the year. We could probably go back and just roll through YouTube videos of random BS drama that's happened this year that should like completely ruin consumer confidence, and no one really cares.
Well, here's
Listen,
a
don't
question
ruin my
that-
part 3. Don't ruin my part 3 of the year in review, sir, where I go through my entire view. It's like, all right, we're talking about this bullshit.
I mean, remember what was it? It was about 2 years ago at this time when we were out to murder every group submitter because every group submitter was a scam artist. When wasn't that January or February 2 years ago?
Brandon
the
is
Mark
still
Card
in the Fallout
situation?
shelter to this very day. to this very day, just being like,
Neil,
I'm not
Neil,
Mark's cards. It's all about the vibes,
it's
bro.
all about the vibes, man.
And what
That's still
happens?
a meme.
Like same thing. What happens? We turn it into a funny clip. We all laugh about it.
Yep.
And guess what? Everybody still submits a ton of cards to a group submitter.
But what can people do though? That's the problem. I'm just one guy watching YouTube, right?
Well,
You guys are
here's
out
a
there
serious
putting the word
question on
out.
it.
Huh?
Go ahead.
Here's a serious question about it all. So a lot of this stuff that pops up, it all, I can't say all, but most of it reverts right back to some sort of grading / authentication company that got duped, as we'll say, or didn't do the process right, or there was some scam or something going on. As these numbers keep rising in volume that they're doing, as you have, grading in cards specifically started before really the internet boom and stuff, and it was more in-person shows before eBay was really popping off and online transactions were the bulk of our sales and dealings. Is it, and I mentioned this in the Discord, is it getting to the point where grading is becoming just more of a novelty holder than it is anything to do with the condition, authenticity, any of that on the cards? Like, is people only grading now just to hopefully get that 10 and have it in the fancy holder? Because it almost seems like we're constantly battling something that is being done out there that's screwing over, as the one guy said, the end user. Like, is that the point we're at?
Are you peddling fancy holders there, Bobbles? Is that what's happening? Are you
I mean,
trying
that's
to-
what it's
you
feeling
saying,
No,
is that
it's
what
an
you're doing?
he's an
And
SGC
we at
submitter. There's nothing
SGC.
fancy about that holder.
Tuxedo. The
Some people like
tuxedo.
Oh yes.
Real quick, I'll read a couple of comments here just so we go. By the way, I want to give Sean credit for this one. I figure you appreciate this one, yo. Crisis on Infinite Slabs.
Oh, that's a good one, Sean.
So like I had to give the man his
That's real
props. I
good.
thought it was good. I thought it was good.
Yeah. If something else happens and you see that on a YouTube thumbnail, I'm sorry, Sean, but that's pretty goddamn good.
I
You should
wanted
start
to
a
make sure
channel.
the man got his flowers. I thought it was a good comment. I thought it was
Nah,
worthy.
that's good. That's real good.
So Auburn 35 here asks a question for you. So you have been following or aware of Myers versus CGC. Comic Restoration Company has an active lawsuit against CGC and Heritage. Does that
I
one
have
ring a
not
bell for you?
seen that.
Huh,
I have not
okay.
seen that one.
interesting.
That's fair enough. That'd be interesting, but I'm not too familiar with it. Thank you. Bring it up.
I wanted to. You had Two Facts of Life had that. If no one can tell the difference, is it really fake?
Yep.
Comment. This goes back to something that
Yes,
Swags and I
it's-
talked about.
It's tree in the forest thing.
Yeah, on a live stream about 7 months ago that I actually went back and revisited the clip of, because there's some actually funnily pertinent stuff in there that occurred on this. But my question was, and this will probably be spoilers for a video I might do next week, like all this stuff's going on, we get the card in our hand, the comic book in our hand, it has a certain grade on it. Like, beyond that, do we as collectors, hobbyists, investors, flippers, whatever, do we really want to know this stuff? Or do we just want to be content with our little PSA 10 and not know that there was 8 inches of wax placed on top of it to get that grade? Do we care as long as it says 10 in the top right-hand corner, or 9.8 or whatever? Like, do we really want to know the nitty-gritty
goes right back to
history
what I
of
was saying.
all this stuff? Like,
I think
yeah,
so.
and it plays into your point as well, Bobbles. Like, do we really want to know this stuff? Or do we just want to live our happy little life with our happy little encased collectible with the grade in the corner and, just run with it?
Here's Neo's thing in meme form. Do you want to know
Yeah,
the terrifying
basically.
truth, or do you want to see me hit a few dingers? It's a valid question.
Well, in
Valid
2003, I brought up my book and I wrote 4 pages on getting to know your wax. So for wax pack collectors, and
Right.
a lot of people refer to that, and they got a good education. It never solves everything, but it at least gets you there. And I think the information part, there it is. There's the book right there. There's 4 pages. Flip them. Anyways, I think going forward, people would like to know more information, so you can tell maybe these little nuances that you can't really tell. I think that's really important for people going forward collecting. It gives them a little bit more confidence. They can't have all their confidence in the third parties. They actually have to know a little bit more, themselves. And then that's what, writing books that I've done and price guides and all the information in there, it educates the consumer. And I think those going forward who have read those or are more informed are better collectors, safer too. Do we want to know it? Most people don't.
Well, I think that's the big takeaway, though. But the thing is, the ignorance is bliss argument has always been in play. There's a lot of folks who would rather, like, maybe to kind of to encapsulate your overall point and also Bobble's point in the whole thing. There's a lot of folks where you could literally rip the card in half, throw it inside the holder. If the damn thing says 10 on the top, they'll just accept it as is. And they'll pay a premium for it. It's like, did you even look at, like, it's like, oh, but don't be one of those look at the card, not the holder. It's literally ripped in half, bro. It's literally ripped. Like, there's two separate pieces. They're shaking inside of the holder. You can literally see the two pieces.
I mean, I've done this video before. Buy the card, not the grade is a myth. I mean, if that was the case, all gem mint card from any reputable grader would sell for the same amount.
It has a lot of moral fiber, though.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds good. It sounds great on paper. It looks good on a T-shirt, but the majority of the end user does not follow those rules. Otherwise, a PSA 10, a BGS 9.5, an SGC 10, and a CGC 10 would all sell for the same price. Because really, assuming that they're all competent grading companies, it should all be the same card inside the holder.
Sure, all things being equal, that's true. But that's why that's why rule number 1 exists. rule number 1 exists, like, for and rule number 2 that complements rule number 1 exists for this reason. It's reality. We either want to speak in reality or we can talk in fantasy. In fantasy, yeah, it's pure collectors, buy the card, not the grade. Great. But I also kind of look at the others. I also look at the other extreme.
Those kind of things.
But I also look at the other extreme where it's the people like, oh, we should get rid of all grading. Cool. So now you want your dealer to rip you off. Oh, it's near mint. It's also torn in half.
To Life's point about 99% of cards don't need to be graded. I mean, you're not wrong, but grading makes the transaction easier because two human beings can't agree. They're never going to agree on what the condition of that card is. So you need that third party to be like, no, this is a 10 versus a 9, versus me standing at a dealer table for an hour saying, like, I don't know, this doesn't look gem mint to me, or vice versa.
Look at Dakota's conversation the other day about not even grading company, but does a COMC pre-graded past card hold more weight or value on COMC than one that hasn't had that process done?
I'm surprised Dakota's still around. Anyways.
Surprised what's still around, sorry?
Dakota. Anyway.
Oh, no, he's in his 14th retirement. He's got to do like another, I think he does like a punch card. If he retires another dozen times, I think he gets like a free taco.
Maybe.
So listen, I think he has dreams. I think the one thing though that disappoints me though, and I've joked about it in the past, it's like, dude, retire or don't retire, whatever it is. I say, well, don't private all the videos though. There's some good shit in there that I'd still like to be able to reference back to. That'd be kind of fun to have a couple of just keep the really angry videos. The one it's like the PSA premium is a joke. Keep that one. Keep a couple of the random lives in there. It's like that would have been fun, but that's okay.
Well, I asked you this question earlier.
Go ahead.
Does this comic CGC fiasco, does it trickle down to everything that they're doing now?
Short term, people will ask questions, but I think once again, I think we all know the answer. Long term is people will forget and move on to the next thing.
But we're talking some big dollars with most comics.
Short term, it definitely does, because I've gotten DMs about like, I was going to send some stuff to CGC cards, but I think I'm going to hold off now. But in 3 months,
yeah, I was going to send some to the VHS, and now I'm like,
yeah.
That'd do it.
CGC is a massive company, so yeah. I don't know that this will be their death knell. And like we've talked about multiple times already, there's not really someone there to step up and grab the reins.
So do they do something or not? Is the real question going forward. Will they do something, or not?
I think they're going to let it. I think what they're going to do is let it play out through the holidays and see what happens after the first of the year.
Sure.
Because they could play off something about, they could retro and say, hey, we've been looking into this since day one, which, based off stuff that I've heard, they are very well aware of this. Like, there's people talking in back channels in the comic content creator space. Like, they're well aware and they are taking this seriously, but whether they say anything publicly, who knows? And what they say publicly, who knows? I think they're going to kind of judge community reaction over the next week or two and play the, oh, well, it was over the holidays game or whatever, and then kind of see where things sit or land. Like, do we just kind of move on and forget, or does pressure continue to mount? And maybe, you know, they've probably looked into some things. Maybe they looked at the list of what this guy submitted and are like, oh, shit, this is a lot of stuff. Or, oh, this has been going on for a really long time, not just the last, 6 months or whatever. And then, like I said, the scary part is this is the guy that got caught.
Yeah.
So same with the backdoor, once again, it's kind of funny that these are is going on simultaneously with the backdoor things, because though they're nowhere near the same, there's some similar things here of like, how stupid were these people to get caught? Like, if you just did this slightly differently, you would have never probably got caught with this.
2 accounts.
So how many cards have gotten backdoored that we just don't know about?
That's just it, exactly. And here's Jason, Cards and Comics. Good evening, Jason. Another and comics. So we got someone else who represents that side of it. It's funny the CGC issue is exactly like the WeWag PSA issue. Hobby seems to enjoy Groundhog Day. That's kind of the reason why I enjoyed. I don't remember what the name of the video was, but I did a video a couple of months back. I think it was this year. If it is, I'll include it in my year in review. I did a video where we were talking about something similar to the whole Slabgate thing that happened in 2019. And in the video I did, I literally started to make a video, realized that I'd done a video of it in 2019, and then just recorded a new intro and queued to myself from 2019 and played back the exact same video.
Lazy bastard.
But my opinion didn't change. My verbatim, my words on the topic was like, we talked about this in 2019. This is what I said. I agree with Carlos from the past. He was right. It's like,
I mean, how many times have we circle jerked around card cleaning, like, and card trimming, and kind of what we were talking about earlier? Like, what that topic comes up every 9 months because an Evan Mathis pops up, or this thing pops up, or someone used Kurt Card's care to get a grade bump on a major card. It makes its rounds. We all do the same video that we did 7 times already, and we're still in the same place.
Set up at shows. Like, it's so funny.
They are. But here's the thing. Even in Canada, Bobby and I were at the Look, to put it into context, Bobby and I were at the CSC show, which is a card show they're running about once a month. It's not a big show. It's not a big show in Southern Ontario here. There was a guy with Kurt's Card Care right in his booth. It's right there. It's right in plain sight. Like, if you want to buy it, like, if you're interested in it, like, I think Bobby, you just asked him a question just because you wanted to hear him say something about it. It's like, yeah. It's like, what is this? Or, whatever it was, just to get him. But it's right there. It's right on the booth in the middle of a smallish card show in Southern Ontario that is once every month or two.
Yeah.
Really?
I mean, the hardcore old school collectors might want to yell at the clouds on it, but if the grading companies don't care, then
I don't think they
don't. When's the last time you saw someone get an ultra modern card rejected from an order because it was marked as clean? Like,
I don't think they can tell.
Well, I mean, they can't.
Well, exactly.
I literally have a video with Peter saying they can't tell. Like,
why worry about it?
I don't even know that it's just ultra modern stuff just coming out.
It's probably not, but the chrome cards are obviously the easiest thing to do.
Yeah, the vintage ones.
I mean, what's the numbers looking like monthly that are going through right now between the 4 major companies? Pushing close to 3 million?
Oh, it's like 1.5 million.
No, it's like 1.5 million because PSA does like 1.2. Everybody else does.
Oh, wait, I was thinking PSA was at 2 million. Okay. All right. I had them at 2 million. So, all right. So about 1.5 million.
They go to 2 million. Brad gets a raise.
Yeah.
I don't know why I had 2 million for them, but anyway, so 1.5 million a month.
Yep.
I mean, the amount of cards that are having to be done per day and the amount of different people looking at them, it's really created this atmosphere that things are going to happen because people know the more volume, the easier it is to get stuff through. Like, it's the sad world of it, and we would love for it to be perfect, but that's also why I made the claim. It's almost turning into just a vanity holder. I mean, shit's gonna happen. You don't know what is good, wrong, bad, whatever anymore. There's just so much of it out there.
All it is. Yeah, just keeps turning the wheel.
No, I think it's fair.
You get 100 graders, like that's you're gonna get 5 different grades on one card. If you went through all 100 graders, you're going to get 5 different grades. Most of them will be between 1 or 2 grades, but the other ones will go to the other extent. We know this. The law of averages is going to work.
I mean, I just cracked a PSA 6 and sent it back in, did nothing to it, and it came back a 10 like a month ago. Like
a 6.
Yeah.
What year was it?
Yeah, Ultra Modern 6 that I cracked and sent back in, and then it came back a 10.
What's the cert number? Just kidding.
I don't remember.
And that's
Just
There's a video. There's a video on it. You feel free to go watch it.
And that's
But
why
look,
I
can I
and believe in card grading. Perfect example.
Look, Eric is waiting for the coaster maker to make it easier for him so that he can have it in his house and then he can have his own personal coasters. That's different. That's a different issue. But look, I'll give you a simpler example. The back when the prices on those was higher, I bought one of those Soto pink refractors from his rookie year, and I bought it in a Beckett 9. It was in a Beckett 9 holder, and I've shown it on the channel in the past. I was able to get a better price on it because it was a Beckett 9 holder. But the funny thing is, when I looked at it, even in the holder, I was like, this seems fine. Like, I don't really see any major issue with it. But there was a little bit of a smudge on the surface of the card. And I was like, so I literally was like, so no, I didn't have to. If in this situation, all we had to do is crack it out, literally just grab a microfiber cloth, wipe the smudge off. We sent it to PSA, it came back at 10.
Carlos,
and the thing is, yeah, with the microfiber cloth, high tech. It's like you don't even need to add anything to it. All it was, they graded it as it was with the smudge. Surface was the only thing they were looking at. I was like, there's no scratches on this. Now, of course, when you take it out of the holder, you might find more stuff, but realistically, there wasn't anything. It was just a smudge. You took it out with the microfiber cloth, surface was clean. PSA 10, boom. You just increase the value of the damn thing. It's like, okay.
Yeah, and in all honesty, the grading companies love it because it's more cards that are going to come through the door. Or people are going to, it ups the crack and resub game. Oh, yeah, I'll buy that PSA 9. Maybe I can doctor that baby up and get a 10. Yeah, now they're grading the same card 2, 3, 4 times.
30%.
That's how you're getting 1.5 million cards a month because they're regrading. Oh, I would love to know. I mean, it's literally impossible to know this. Like, what the percentage
can't believe that nobody
regrades
caught it and has actually used it, because it actually surprised me. And I don't know if it was just habit of hearing it so much, but in the SGC podcast they did, and Peter was talking to the guys about the $9 Bowman special, he literally, in that little time frame there, he makes the statement of, yeah, at $9, it's much easier. And this isn't word for word quoting, but he says something to the effect of, yeah, it's much easier at $9 to send the card in and spin the wheel and see if you get the 10. And I was like, holy hell, you're the CEO using the phrase of spin the wheel and see if you get the 10.
Really?
Can we quote you on that? Holy hell, bobbles and ball cards, SGC submitter.
I told y'all in the Discord, I was like, I can't believe you just said that. It's like,
you're like, Peter. He's like, all of a sudden you see bobbles. Peter, for fuck's sake, you're making this really hard, Rodney. Right? Do you not even understand what you're doing to me over here? You're killing me, man.
I mean, I know it's a common phrase, but maybe you don't say it.
Yeah, maybe.
Hey, listen. On
let Nolan
say
it. Don't let the grading company say it.
But I think on the high-end card from one grade to the next, like a 9 to a 10, I would say the resubmittal is probably, and there's significant difference in value. We're not just talking common card here. I'd say it's around 40% for the people who got 9s pushing for 10s, where it goes, exponentially high. It's got to be at least 40%.
I mean, I can tell you right now, one of my favorite things that I'm going to do.
6 for 10. Yeah, I guess you're going to get in that business.
It's mostly up and running, but when he gets it fully up and running, the gem rate universal pop report is going to be a gold mine for looking at these cards that are numbered out of 10, and there's 20 of them on the pop report. I mean, we all know some. Like I know Bobbles talks about the 101 all the time. It's like on every company's grading report. But some of the other ones, I think it's I think there's a Luca that's out of 99 that there's like 125 of on the pop reports. And you have to assume that all 99 haven't even been pulled, let alone submitted for grading.
True.
There's red refractors that there's 10 to 15 of, and they're supposed to be out of 5.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Or the out of 5s that there's more than 5 of them on the PSA pop report alone. For
look at a perfect example of a skewed pop report, the Ricky Henderson rookie card. how many damn times has that card been sent in hopes to get in the 10?
Yes.
And there's very, very few of them in a 10. And I know that people are sending that. If they got a 9, they have probably sent it 100 damn times trying to get that 10.
Yeah. Well, now it's expensive, but
it's funny that you mentioned that card because that's the one I used on the preview of the Universal Pop Report because it showed the gem rate percentage data because everyone says PSA Pop controls that card. And when you actually look at the grading data between all the companies, they're not the strictest grader on that card. I think either Beckett or SGC is more strict, has less 10s percentage wise on their pop report. And PSA is like maybe like the second easiest to get a 10 on or something like that. I forget what it is, but everyone like talks about that card like, oh, PSA significantly pop controls this compared to everybody else. But when you actually look at the numbers, they're like right in line with the other. I mean, CGC hasn't really graded any, but they're basically the same gem rate percentage as SGC and Beckett on that card. I found that amusing.
But Beckett's a little different with their grading, right? The 9.5 men, gem men. Black.
Sure, but that would make you even think that they'd be even easier, and it's not. Like, if anything, there should be way more Beckett's, and there wasn't. There was actually, I think, lesser right in line with the PSA 10.
Okay.
Yeah, Beckett is a little looser in regards to pulling a gem mint grade on it because of the subgrades.
Yes. Yeah.
So, but yeah.
That's fair. That's fair. So, Neo, you're more than welcome to hang out as much as you like. If you want to take off, you're more than welcome to. I appreciate you giving us the And Comics insight on that. You're off to press some books, I believe. Off to utilize some.
I got a stack of slabs here. I got to crack open and swap the labels on and
busy night.
Other stuff. So
yeah, we'll see you at the Stonecutter meeting. Just be sure to bring in the presentation. We have a couple of things we need to discuss.
I got to go check out this Collectible Dad channel.
What is that?
Joker.
I think he's ripping off somebody else. I'll be honest. I think he's ripping off. I think he needs to be gotten rid of. I think we need to talk to Swaggle Haas.
I wonder if it's like a spoof account or something that's like commenting on a bunch of other videos.
Oh, that's like Ziggy. No, sorry.
He said the Z word.
I was gonna say he spoke Voldemort.
As long as you say it in the right context.
That's right.
You're gonna summon him. He's gonna appear now.
Oh,
that's right.
No.
Zach says Neo's a legend. Watching. There you go. Yeah, no, Neo's a good guy. He was. I asked him to pop on because I figured it'd be good topics, and it does actually kind of relate to the Superfractor thing because the reality is we can relate to it. But like I said, the Superfractor thing and the backdoored cards and stolen cards and all that has happened so many times. That's why we did the podcast. I thought it'd be more fun. Like, let's just do the podcast. Refractor Jones had his stack of them that we could show as an example, and I'll go there you go. Here's an example of a whole bunch of them on a table. And where did he get them from? He bought them from somebody who had a whole stack of them. How did he get a whole stack of them? From 2007 to 2010? Because this shit has been around for years.
Yeah, and we're all one hobby. It's all parallel, really. Comics, cards, coins.
Yeah. There's specific differences, but you could cookie cutter a lot of the stuff over, especially on the drama side. People doing things that they're not supposed to be doing to make more money. News at 11.
Carl Jobs, that guy's.
Yeah.
It'll be fine. It'll be fine. As long as that, like I said, we're going to find out more about this Collectibles Dad guy. I have suspicions. As long as he doesn't start some kind of a charity, in the name of a dead relative and collects hundreds of thousands of dollars, that could be a little shady.
Yeah.
Too soon. Too soon.
As I always like to say, when shit like this happens, the ultimate winners are the content creators because it's just gold for us.
You got it.
Facts.
Like we're the ultimate winners here. We get content for days out of this. And guess what? The high drama stuff, people love to watch it.
Now you already touched on it, Neo. You've got a video. So end of the year here. What is planned for you? What do you know you're going to be working on here towards the end of the year?
What, content wise?
Yeah.
I usually have a set, kind of like you. I kind of have a set shtick of what I like to do at the end of the year. I haven't mapped it completely out yet, but because I usually don't do that, I just record the night before and kind of figure it out as I go. I'll do like a look back. I usually like to do like best play, worst play of the year type thing. Like what was like one of my more profitable maneuvers? Where did I, get my ass handed to me on? Favorite pickups of the year. I'll probably go back and look at like the predictions video that I did for 2023 and pick that apart. And then obviously some like speculation content for, what does 2024 bring?
Okay.
So,
No, that seems fair.
standard end of the year stuff. Nothing earth shattering.
I think you should do like an intro video to it and just include the I got disaster. I feel like that clip should be permanently etched in the ethos of the channel.
That was like
one of my
3 years
favorite.
ago now.
I don't care. Neo, I don't care. It's part of the channel. It's one of my favorite things.
Were you? I can't remember. Were you watching that live when it happened, or was that?
I might have been. I might have been, and then I cackled, and then I made fun of it, and that's kind of what I do.
That was a good moment.
It was a good, like I said, it was very memorable. Look, I was there, so not for that one, but I was there with you when Phil Minton's camera died on him, and he tried to defend Mike Trout, and every time he did, the technology around him was like telling him, "Don't do this anymore. Stop it." And all these years on, it's not getting better. It's getting worse.
All right, you boys have a good rest of your night. Have a good Christmas, holiday, Hanukkah, whatever the hell it is that you marry or celebrate or do whatever it is that you do.
Neil, where can people find you?
Right there.
Neo Cards and Comics.
On all
recently with the
social
N
platforms.
Comics, a little bit more emphasis
yes.
on it, but otherwise, Neo Cards and Comics. Neo,
It comes in handy on days like this when you can mine drama from both sides of the spectrum, both
Of
hobbies.
course.
We praise the content gods as always.
As always. Later, boys.
Thanks
Take
for
it
coming.
easy. Thanks, Neo.
Yeah. Bathroom break.
Go for it. Debt, taxes, and hobby hanky panky. Seems to be the case. Seems to be the order of the day. But yes, I did.
I'm just waiting
reached out
for
to Neo
Eric to
ahead.
get his order together. I know he's
Yeah.
very excited about grading cards and comics
I-
and McFarlane
know-
figures. They do those.
Oh, there you go. Fancy.
You know, I know that a 9 can be a 10 and a 10 could be a 9, and that's close enough. And sometimes maybe on a bad day an 8 will jump to a 10. Hearing that a 6 can jump to a 10, that is the definition of why I don't trust grading. I don't participate in it. I don't like it, and I want nothing to do with it.
Once upon a
That's
time,
trash. That is complete, utter trash.
Well,
that you
Eric,
move
look, once
awesome.
upon a time, Beckett turned a Mickey Mantle into a what was it? It was a Mickey Mantle into a Sandy Koufax. And a Sandy Koufax into a Mickey Mantle. It was very. You think 6 to 10 is impressive? They made them 2 different people.
I know. Well, that's because Beckett is just so amazing. They're magical. They can do that.
Next level.
Well,
It's just
the
utterly trash. That's just utter trash.
that Justin Herbert that Neo mentioned there, the 101 that's on all
Yeah, that was a 101. Yeah.
3 pop reports. It's a National Treasures. I think it's National Treasures Colossal or something like that. It's an RPA.
Yeah.
It's not the true RPA thing with the shield or whatever, but it is a 101 Justin Herbert patch auto from a very high-end product. It is or was at one point, I don't know what it is today, but it is a 5 to potentially 6-figure card. It was originally graded by PSA, and it got a 6. Now, for clarity, PSA is harsher on thicker cards. I personally cracked the card and sent it to SGC. Looked it over. I knew it had a defect. Sent it in, and it got an 8. I thought that was fair based on what I had seen before. Sent it in. Now, I didn't Kurtz card it or anything like that. Just cracked it out. Sent it in. It then was sold, and the new owner had Beckett graded, and it got a 9.5 with a 10 surface grade. The defect it had was a surface issue, so I don't know how in the hell it got a 10 surface subgrade. But that card traveled between 3 companies and went from 6 to 8 to 9.5.
They're never getting my money. I don't understand.
Bob,
you
your
understand.
money. We already talked about this. He's got a Jason Robertson card to buy. Send him your fucking money.
I understand rule number 1 and 2. But
Bobbles,
if
I'm trying to
this
help you
is-
here, man.
If this
Mrs. Wade, I need a loan.
Yes.
1 and 2.
All right. So while Eric is moaning and lamenting the state of grading, let me touch on this one here. I'll read a couple of real quick ones here. Hammer's got Disney buying Beckett. Couldn't hurt the stock anymore per Dufex. True. We're all caught up on the chat. All right. let me show this one real quick, and then I think we'll give Ham his crumble cookie ad briefly, and then we will briefly do, like I said, we'll play it by ear here a little bit. I'm going to go a little over 2 hours. Like I said, it's going to be shorter than normal. We'll go a little over 2, and then we'll do the search for Hal Gill, because I want that to be a feature piece of the presentation today. I invited Neo so he could give us the background on the comic thing, because he knows it much better. I did watch a couple of videos though to get understood. I still thought it was an interesting topic, because the impact where you've got one major grading player in the space could be bigger. But to your point, hobby forgets everything. That includes the comics hobby, the card hobby, whatever you want. That's just fact of the game. That's how it's going to be. Good evening, name. Hang out with the in-laws tonight, but wanted to say hello. Good evening.
Why?
Thanks, name.
There's no reason to say hello. Go away.
All right. So while Eric is saying hello to name, I'm going to quickly show this, and I'll include a link to this in the description for everybody. This was a Huggins and Scott auction, an old one. That was actually sent to me after the podcast on Monday. Well, Tuesday was when it dropped, but we recorded on Monday. And this was an example of kind of what we're talking about. So this is 8 2007-2010 Topps and Bowman baseball uncut auto refractor and superfractor sheets. We talked about the whole thing with the sheets. So this is a grouping of multiple years, same years that Refractor Jones had in his. So there could be relation to it or not. So this was back in 2014. So you could have bought this at Huggins and Scott. So for, I think, $1,200 here, you could have purchased 8 sheets, including sheets for Superfractors. Fuzzy photos, I acknowledge, and I'll see if I can make them a little bit bigger. This is from the Wayback Machine, so you're getting the old version of it. So I'll see if I can pull up the bigger photo. Doesn't look like it. So unfortunately, you're going to get what you're going to get with these. I can't make them any better quality-wise. But you can look. These are uncut sheets of what would otherwise be limited cards. And here's the Superfractors without autos. And you can see the little pattern on them. So I know they're kind of hard to make out, but you can basically get the gist of it from here. Now imagine if you were good at cutting these and were able to therefore make your own copies of these cards. And look, orange refractors, and like I said, the Superfractors. Well, you could have bought this $1,200 for 8 sheets. Do the math. If you manage to fool anybody, you're getting more value out of that than what the $1,200 would have cost you. And this was back in 2014. So going on, a couple of months, it'll be 10 years ago. This ain't new. How we acquire them is changed. The amount of social media we have available to showcase these things when they happen has changed. The avenues which we can disseminate that information has changed. No, this shit's still out there. It's out there right now. That's why we gave all those examples. But by the way, we gave those examples of 90s stuff. We didn't even talk about we talked about the early 2000s with the Refractor Jones example, but here it is. Here's some uncut sheets of the same stuff. Lots of it out there. And if people are looking.
That kind of situation is when you're dealing with the 101s or, the reds out of 5 or the oranges out of 25. And like you said, if you can get them cut, get them through to where they're, well, you don't even really need to slab them. I mean, it's a damn 101. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Somebody might have it in their PC, tucked away, and then years later, another one comes along. And most likely, the person who had the PC isn't going to catch it, and somebody else is going to wind up with it. And they're going to think they have the legitimate 101 Superfractor. And little do they know, it's a dupe. Mm-hmm. And then there's Michael Taylor Superfractor where I can't even find a picture of it. So I'm really
look, man. We'll get you a goddamn sheet. Look, we'll get you a goddamn sheet of them. All right, we'll get you a whole thing, and it's only Michael Taylor. Just read it.
It said 2014. That's the one I'm looking for.
Paul says 97 PMGs have uncut sheets. Yeah. So Paul, if you didn't check out the podcast, you should. I showed from Nat Turner's thing. They had a set of PMGs, a set of green PMGs.
And those sheets don't come out officially. I mean, right? They're all out the back door. I mean, do card companies? There
were a few times. So I won't speak for every example, but there were some examples where sometimes some of them were given as gifts. People were loosey-goosey. You understand something? People were loosey-goosey for a very long time. But stuff had value, yes, but it wasn't like today, where you sit there and like, oh, a sheet of this is like. It's because sometimes it'd be like, oh, somebody would come for like a visit of factory, a dignitary, someone of some importance would come and get a tour, and at the end of the tour, here you go, here's a gift, a roll of these things, and suddenly they would be available, or a lot of it would make its way out back door because the security was lax, and to this very day, I'm looking at 2007 to 2010. As we speak, the Keystone cops are trying to figure it out, and they've got it on the to-do list after O.J. Simpson is able to find the real killer. So right after that, they will figure out who took these sheets. So don't hold your breaths.
I guess he's getting closer. They're on the golf course.
Mm-hmm.
He's searching
Facts.
every golf course known to man for the killer. He's getting closer.
Every day, a little bit closer. But let me give you a different example, though. And this is not, it's also kind of a backdoor situation, but for a different reason. I'll give you an example here in a second. 98 Pinnacle, totally certified platinum golds. Yep. So let me give you another example of this. So one of the most famous autograph sets in the wrestling card side of the hobby was a WCW NWO one. And there was dispute for a long time over the size of the checklist because there are certain ones that people weren't sure existed. But what happened in some weird cases is that some of the wrestlers ended up with like extra copies of them. Some of them didn't sign them at all. So there were some situations where they would have copies of the card. It never made it into packs because they never actually signed it. But on the other hand, they had the card. So you couldn't really include it in the checklist because it technically had never made it back in. But then after the fact, some of them signed some of them on their own and would like sell them on their own. So in reality, it was a real card. It was never pack issued because it didn't actually make it back into the packs, but they were supposed to be issued, but they weren't. But then they were signed by the person that were supposed to be signed by. So what the hell is it? Real cards, real signature, wrong timeline, didn't make it into the packs. So what is it?
It's the Kevin Durant Topps Chrome rookie auto.
Well, without the sticker. This is a situation where it was on card, like it actually was done the way it should have been done, but in the wrong timeline. But do you understand what I'm saying, though? All these weird, but the security was so lax. People were so lazy. Like, oh yeah, where's that pile of cards? It was like, weren't you supposed to get the? Just print another set. They didn't even bother to go look for it. It's like, where's the thing? I think I threw it in a drawer somewhere. Go print another set.
They're in somebody's big lunchbox.
Could be. But that was the problem. And but to the discussion we had earlier in the week, to this very day, clearly, the security is still as lax as ever. The Keystone cops are still on the case to this very day because stuff still seems to be able to walk out the door.
Well, so we discussed all of that, and Eric made the mention of if things continue to happen like this, it could affect the hobby. And here we're talking tonight about a grading company, although it's comics, something happened, but it all ties together. Here is something I've wondered ever since the whole Panini discussion, the Fanatics taking the licensing. Was Panini going to get bought? Weren't they going to get bought? Now there's like, the court battles and all this other stuff. If indeed Panini just no longer exists and it's the Fanatics thing, how much Panini shit is going to wind up in the open market that should not be out there? And what will that do?
Mm-hmm. I think it's fair. Now, one quirk I will throw in here, because this was going to be interesting to your question. It's also going to depend on what the nature of that going forward concern is going to be. Because if it's a situation where the North American side gets spun off, because Panini is a fairly decently sized company, and there's the big section of it, the headquarters in Europe. And I believe, I could be mistaken, but I believe that Panini was able to get their hands on one of the soccer licenses that they just recently picked up. So this is a new license or a renewal of a license for them. So this is one they actually have retained or gained under their. So it could be a situation where if you're Panini, you literally could break it up into North America and Europe, spin off the North American one if you have to deal with all those other licenses and the issues that are going to expire, and then continue the European concern with soccer stickers, soccer cards, et cetera, and still have your operations. So it could be a situation where now the reason I pose this idea, the reason I pose this question, hypothetically, if you did something like that, you could take back your shit. You could give them the North American operations, equipment, whatever they got, but you can take this inventory. You don't necessarily have to sell them the inventory. You could be the one backdooring it yourself if you're Panini Europe. It's just a hypothetical scenario.
That's my point. Like,
yeah,
the stuff that they have, because we know they have, all these cards that they do these 101s of, and these white boxes, black boxes, all this other crap that they do. They have a ton of stuff there, a ton of supply. Yeah. if they are no longer doing the basketball, football, even the baseball, even though it's unlicensed,
The WWE?
it just feels like that, they may retain being a company of some sort, but it feels like all of that stuff is going to wind up think Fleer bankruptcy thing. It's going to wind up in the market. I mean, it's like almost the same scenario all over again.
Could be. Like, honestly, it could be. There's no reason to believe it could. It creates some murky middle ground with a lot of the stuff. That's really what it comes down to, is that you've got these items that should have wound up in one place and they're sitting in a warehouse somewhere. Then what happens? Who disposes of them? Who gets them? Even if the company is itself not winding completely out of business, that's what happened with Pacific a lot. This is before they finally went out of business and sold off their inventory. They themselves were selling printing plates. So they would have printing plates in the packs, but they would also sell off sets of printing plates. You could buy sets. And it was Pacific who was the one who was doing it, selling it. So it was their stuff, their stock. This is stuff that could have been put in the packs, but then they distributed it out the door themselves as part of this. So in a way, it was kind of backdoored, but on the other hand, it was something you could buy directly from the company themselves, and they would sell it to you. These were printing plates. But then what happens? People would break up the printing plate sets and sell the individual pieces. And then as time goes by, if you don't know what I just said, you see this printing plate. Oh man, a one-on-one printing plate of, a cyan or a magenta or whatever. It's like, well, actually, they came as a set. You could have actually bought the whole set of them originally inside of a holder that Pacific would have sold you. This whole buying them one at a time is because somebody broke them up at some point. But you need to know that. Otherwise, you wouldn't know what the history of how this particular one came into the marketplace.
I don't have
Stuff
any
like
of those in my collection. I don't have any printing plate cards. I don't know if you guys do, but I don't have any of that stuff.
I have more for Leaf. Leaf is one who does a lot with those because I don't mind the autograph ones. If you put an autograph on it, I'm a little bit more interested. General print, I've got a few, but for the most part, printing plates kind of bore me, unless it's. I prefer it if it has an autograph. If you put an autograph on it, then it's an autograph card. Then that adds a little something to it for me personally. That's just my take on it. Dr. Becker has the rest of the Randy Moss jersey they use. It's like a dish rag. There you go. Nice. Makes sense. So real quick, we're going to go for a couple more minutes here and then we'll start winding her down. Is there anything else you guys wanted to chat on? I know that the conversation was dominated when Neo's here giving us the lowdown on the comics thing. And like I said, the Superfractor thing, we did the podcast episode on it. Although if there's a specific question or thought that someone wants to share, we can definitely touch on it a little bit. And then we'll get on to the Search for Helgo. Very exciting. Do you want to give a Crumble Cookie ad? Give Michael Hammes a moment.
I'm not doing it in a high pitched voice. I don't care what he says.
No. We got to be able to not break our speakers here. Give us a break.
Oh, how about I was going to do the silent one? Just
Oh, you're just going to hold the box. Okay, yeah. I was feeling it.
Oh,
I thought you were having the same problem I had during the podcast.
No, I was just.
I finally got some sleep, thankfully. So it's helped tonight. Go ahead.
We're still very, very excited that Crumble has joined the Because I'm Carlos organization and has become one of our top sponsors here for the show.
Wow.
And to celebrate that, they have allowed us to give you a special discount. So between now and the end of the year, anyone who watches the show, please head over to your nearest Crumble Cookies. And we're still using the same code as before. I need them. And they will give you a 20% discount. So if you get that Rumble, it's time to get you some Crumble. We want to thank them again for being fantastic sponsors.
There you go. Live the dream. Billy Cilio says, best episode ever. Eric barely said anything. I felt like the quality was high. Sign language, please.
That's because
Ham
Billy doesn't know about my back, and then I'm sitting here kind of high as a kite and can't really use my brain all that well.
The last part is normal. Huggy 99 says, Carlos, what are your thoughts on SCV saying he sends his rating rejects to ComC? And Sports Car Radio saying don't buy cards on ComC to grade, just go there to flip. So I think both sections of it they're unnecessarily extreme takes. You can send cards to ComC. If you want to grade cards, you could send to ComC, but that's not the most efficient means to do it anyway. That wouldn't be the reason. It's not about grading rejects or not grading rejects. Some cards are also not worth grading. ComC, a lot of stuff I use on there. So the Sports Car Radio point of saying don't buy cards on ComC to grade, that is true. But it doesn't mean you cannot buy cards on ComC that can be graded, because I have bought cards on ComC, graded them, and gotten 10s. I've also bought cards on ComC, had them shipped back to me, and submitted them the normal way before that was available, and gotten 10s. So it's not an automatic either way. So for the second, but if you want to be efficient, if your goal is to try to maximize profitability, then yes, then you should probably just buy and reprice. That would be a more efficient means if you're going to use ComC that way as a flipping mechanism. ComC works great for getting rid of a stack of cards maybe that don't make sense for you to put up on eBay. Whether you grade them or not, it makes more sense to do it. That's a key piece of that. Crumble Cookie Satellite was better. Just mute it and replay it several times. You can still get the effect. Because of the UDE pack, is great to grade hockey through comp. So that's another piece. You can use EPAC. So this is something that SCV wouldn't be thinking about. The hockey guys and even the Marvel guys, because Marvel is another one of the Upper Deck's products that they have lines of. And, AEW, my favorite. But here's the thing. EPAC then is being sent directly from Upper Deck. Then Upper Deck sends it into ComC to house in the warehouse. So their fulfillment, ComC is effectively the fulfillment center. So you're getting cards that 100% could be gradable. They could also have some flaws in them too from the factory. Same as something you get in a pack. So people that are doing EPAC, that is a more efficient means. And if you want to get it graded while you're already in the platform, you could do that and take advantage of it and then have it shipped to yourself, if that's what you want to do. So it's not as cut and dry. So bottom line for this question, both takes can be true. There's nothing wrong with it, but it also misses out on other possibilities inside of the same idea. So could be, but at the same time, you can also do stuff outside of what they both covered that would also qualify. If you're doing EPAC, you could still grade. There are cards on there that are gradable, believe it or not, and there are people that will send in cards and make money on it. But it depends on what you send. You can't just send anything and expect that to work for you. But it can also be a dumping ground. Yeah, some people don't try, Bobby. They'll literally send anything, and then you take a 50-cent intake fee, and then this other thing. It's like, well, you got to think about it a little bit. I'm not telling you to sit there for hours strategizing, but there are certain cards that make more sense on that platform than others.
Sure.
And if you remember that, then you're going to go.
Sounds good.
Yeah. So real quick here. How many people don't like their grade and crack and sell on eBay? Same thing. Yes. I enjoy SCR, but they're hypocrites and ignore me every time I ask. I can tell people not to buy from PWCC or eBay when they're using Golden. It's been a major topic of interest to them. You got to do your thing, Tom. Carlos, I also send my cards to ComC. I don't think we'll get a PSA 10. We put cards on eBay that aren't going to get a PSA 10. It's not platform specific. It's just general. And also, oftentimes, if the card has enough damage on it, the ComC will mark it down a grade. Because they'll put the normal one, and then if it's like an excellent or whatever, they'll knock it down. They'll actually put a little designator. It's not a grading, but they do mark a designator. So if the card is torn in half, it probably won't work out for you. You're not going to fool anybody. Carlos, what are your thoughts on the state of AEW? I think they need to move to the CGC and Beckett model. Say a little bit less publicly. I still watch it. I still enjoy it, but they're making a hash of it for themselves and digging themselves quite the hole. What percentage of graded cards out of existence now have issues with counterfeit or tampering issues of some kind? Less than 1% or more. What percent of graded cards in existence? Well, that's a lot of cards.
Because even issues with counterfeit? Well, counterfeit.
Yeah, counterfeit or tampering issues. I would say less than 1%, but that could still be a lot.
Keep going.
Yeah. No, but here's the thing. It could be 1% and still be a lot of cards. Like in all honesty, you got to remember, PSA alone has graded tens and tens of millions. SGC has graded comfortably into the millions. CGC has graded over 1 million. Beckett has graded millions. So you just start doing a little bit of quick math, right? You start adding up enough millions. Tags graded like 5. So like if you keep going and you keep adding millions and millions and millions and millions and millions, 1% would still be a massive number. 0.5% would still be a massive number.
I'd say around 1% or half.
And an individual card numbering thing, that would still be huge. That would still be huge. But it would still represent a very small percentage, if that makes any sense. Did any of you see the fake Wemby auto? I did not. Bubbles, you know what he's referring to? I know Ham mentioned something about that, but Neo was in the middle of an explanation there, but I didn't catch it. I'm not sure about that one.
I haven't seen anything on that.
No,
Okay.
I haven't come across that one yet.
Mention it on the Discord, Ham. We'll get a little background on it, but I haven't seen it. I'm not sure what you're familiar with.
Is any Wemby auto going to be real? I mean, how does that really hold a pen?
Is Wemby real?
Who knows?
Like, his hand is like, it doesn't look like it would hold a pen.
So we get him a big old novelty pen, and that'll help it work out.
Yeah, you need like one of them big fat ones that had like all the little different color quickie things on the top. Y'all remember those from? Well, not.
Oh, the ones you can, the ones you can change out. The ones you can change out.
Yeah, and they were
colors
like that big around. That's what he needs.
for. Okay.
He
There you
just did something with Connor Bedard. Somebody.
Oh, I'm sure that was interesting.
And they did a sit down and talked about being the number 1 draft picks, and then they went over and shot some pucks at street hockey in the studio. And how tall is that hockey stick that he had? He must have used Charas or something, because he wasn't going to use a regular size one.
It was a telephone pole.
Yeah, pretty much.
Mm-hmm. Ham says, spoke with an AEW active wrestler today. Ooh, look at Ham talking to active wrestlers.
Wow.
He says it's a mess. Wrong guys running the company. Yes. I can still enjoy the product and also be like, but to be fair, the person who owns the company is the son of a billionaire. I could elaborate, but can you figure it out? Someone who has lived an entire life where they don't know what the word no is and think they're right and can just play around with things, it doesn't always end up in a good way. I'll put it that way.
Son of a preacher man. Yeah, same thing.
Yeah. Well, all I'm going to say is the next couple of months are going to be everything, because what happens with their next TV deal, if they're able to get a renewal or if they don't get a renewal, that's going to be a big thing in the future of that company. I might be able to get my AEW boxes for $150 if they don't get a TV deal. Just saying. An actual $150.
Yeah.
We'll see. For collecting purposes, I don't give a shit. Like, I enjoy it for what it is. It's fun for me. And I watch the show. And I think they're going to have the Canadian Loop coming up here in March. They're going to have some events, and they're going to have one at the, I want to say Coca-Cola Coliseum now. They changed it from Rico. I think they call it Coca-Cola, Bobby, the one where the Marlies play. I think it's Coca-Cola or something now. Can't remember.
No, it's they changed the name of it?
They changed it from Rico.
MasterCard Center.
No, there's the MasterCard one where the Leafs practice, and then there's the one that was Rico Coliseum.
And the Marlies play practice. Do they play there too?
No, the Marlies play
the Leafs
where
are on
Rico
one
was.
side. Marlies, it's 4 rinks, right? So you have the Leafs on the one side. You have the Marlies.
I know.
It's written.
Yeah, I'm not
the
talking about
Resource
the practice
Center
facility.
for the Hockey Hall of Fame. The Resource Center's in there, and then there's 2 other rinks down the end, and I'm sure there's games there.
Yeah, it's a Coca-Cola Coliseum, Bobby. The one you're talking about, the MasterCard Center of Excellence, is a different facility.
But the Marlies do practice there.
They do practice there, yeah. But they play their games in the Coca-Cola, which was the Rico Coliseum. It's the X.
Yeah. Oh, okay, that one. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So that arena is the one I'm referring to.
Okay.
Yeah. So they'll be
They're
running a show
everywhere.
out of that, and I'll probably check that one out because, again, I enjoy it for what it is. But the guy, it's his business and it's his money. He can do whatever the hell he wants. Not the way I would run it. I'll put it that way. Not the way that I would run it, but it's his. He can do whatever he wants. How many copies of the Sports Card Collecting Investing for Dummies being released in April 2nd by Geoff Wilson will you be buying for family and friends' birthday presents? All of them. And by that, I mean I'll send all of them to Eric. He needs all the help he can get.
Yeah, I'm really into investing and buying modern cards and keeping up with the stock market to see which ones.
It's
I
for
should
dummies,
buy
man.
as well.
It's for dummies. It's literally like your book. It's built for you.
Okay.
There.
Yeah.
It's on the
Oh,
cover.
Thanks.
There's even a picture of Eric on the cover. No.
Ooh, it's going to be amazing. But the problem is it's the only picture. The problem is they're going to capture the one time he changed his smile because of peer pressure. That'll be the one they use on the cover. That'll be the picture they use.
with
The
the
one
lead hat
time.
on. Yeah.
Last night we took a whole bunch of pictures with the team, and it was all in my head again that this time I'm gonna make sure I smile the way I usually smile. So I said,
The goofy one that with all the player pictures. Yeah.
Carlos, what do you make of the Johnny Come Lately types going crazy about Fanatics backdoor handle? It has always happened. Doesn't make it okay though. Meh. Same as I make about them freaking about everything else. It's also watching our Dynamite Collision, whatever the Friday show is. Rampage. You know what's funny though? Even somebody who enjoys watching the show, I can't watch Rampage or Collision right now because they put it on TSN Plus, and I'm like, I'm not paying for that.
No,
I have 5 TSN channels. I literally have 5 TSN channels. I'm not paying extra for the streaming online only channel. You morons! I'm not paying for that shit. What's wrong with you? Good Lord.
make a call in.
Kids. I just watched Dynamite and not exactly with 100% attention. I PVR it. That allows me to go quickly through and check out the segments that interest me. Funny enough, I did the same thing with WWE before I stopped watching it. I started getting bored with segments and I would start fast forwarding through them. Once I realized in a 3-hour show I would only watch 4.5 minutes, I was like, well, this is a waste of my time. If I'm literally fast forwarding through the entire show. What's that?
That's why you don't pay for extra channels so you can get it.
Yeah, not going to pay extra for that. W is going to take that deal from AW. Don't think they keep that deal. We'll see. The numbers have been bad. Relatively, they pretty much stabilized. So they're bad compared to where they were a year ago. But WWE's numbers have been going down for 20 years.
Ever.
No, like here's the thing. A lot of folks focus on the ratings. They say, oh man, Dynamite's getting bad ratings, Collision's getting bad ratings, and whatever. It's like, yeah, you're right. Because the product itself has been worse. But then they're like, and then in the same vein, they'll be like, oh, look at WWE's doing. WWE's ratings are down 80% from 20 years ago.
That's
80.
bad.
Yeah, but WWE has learned how to monetize and make money out of everything. They've learned how to squeeze every dime out of everything. So here's the thing. They've never been more profitable. And I went over the breakdown real quick. They're getting $100 million from the Saudis to promote Saudi Arabia in the 2 shows a year they run over there. $100 million to run a show. Even if nobody showed up, they'd make $100 million. But, people are required to show up. Completely legitimate. So they make $100 million a year on the 2 Saudi shows. Plus, they just renewed the SmackDown contract for the 1 show. That show is going to make $300 million plus per year. They're looking to get almost $400 million from Monday Night Raw, which is a 3-hour show. It's terrible. It's nearly unwatchable. But they're asking for almost $400 million for it. And then they've also been extending. They have a NXT. They put that on the CW network, and they're getting $35-40 million for that. WWE makes money in spite, and they had the deal with Peacock, a 5-year deal with Peacock for $1 billion, $200 million a year for the streaming on Peacock.
They don't need anybody watching.
That's literally the case. They do not need anyone to show up. They do not need anyone to watch. They're making $1 billion a year for doing nothing. Nothing.
Gotta love contracts.
It's a good deal. Hey, it's a good deal if you can get it. If you can get $1 billion a deal simply for existing, it's hard to not be profitable. And then heaven forbid you sell a ticket. Heaven forbid you sell a shirt. Then you make even more money. It's a pretty sweet deal. It's not bad. Carlos, what do you make of how Tony Khan answers questions? It's unlistenable. It is, but I kind of want him to answer questions for Beckett now. You'd at least get audio. It wouldn't answer the question, but you get audio. That'd be pretty good. I watched some of the G-Off videos last night from 2010-19. It's pretty entertaining, no doubt. This was for you, Bobby. What do you make of Sports Car Radio dissing Jeff Wilson once again on the diss track?
Well, I think it's consistent, so it really doesn't change much. It's just to the degree they do it. It's fine. Whatever they want to do, they can do. And Jeff is open to all of that. It seems like constantly. So what's he going to do? Everyone's going to hurt Jeff as much as they can. As much as they want to see him succeed, they want him to fail too. On top of that, so because everyone loves a sad story of ultimate endings, but it's good for content.
There you go. The elephant in the room: WWE is on fire. AEW is flat. WWE is profitable. They're not on fire. I just said their ratings are down 80%. Now they have gone back up from being down like 85%. If that helps. And their attendance is now back up. So from the perspective of attendance, they boosted it because the shows have been better. But back in the Attitude Era, they were selling out every arena everywhere. When Stone Cold Steve Austin and The Rock were on top, they were selling out arenas and stadium shows everywhere and anywhere. Compared to those days, they're ice cold. They couldn't be any colder. AEW is 100% flat. That is true. They're also a 5-year-old company, comparative to a 55-year established company that has had the Rock and wrestling connection with Hogan. It had a boom period. Then it had a down period. Shawn Michaels and those guys, a little bit down, but still, there was some quality there that they were able to hold. And then Stone Cold Steve Austin, The Rock, and the whole Attitude Era, boom. But then, ever since WCW went out of business, the irony is WWE won the war. But WCW going out of business was probably the worst thing that ever happened to WWE, because after that, they went flat for about 20 years. Now, they're profitable because I just gave you an example. They don't have to sell a ticket. They don't need a single viewer. They don't need anything, really, and they automatically make $1 billion just for showing up. You go
Plus
to WrestleMania,
Plus merch.
but I'm saying now you can sell the merch, and then you turned WrestleMania into a 2-night event, so you get to sell tickets twice.
Yes.
Again, everything they do makes it more profitable. Why would they do that? Well, because then they can say they got a higher attendance, and they really did. They broke it up into 2 pieces because some people are going to go both nights, but they count as 2 separate tickets, so they get to count it twice. And then on top of that, they also get to sell the merch, and on top of that, they get to sell the food, and they get to sell all the rest of it. Good. And the best part about it is it's cheaper to rent the building for 2 consecutive nights.
Yes.
So they actually get to make more money by doing it that way and breaking it up into 2 pieces. It's genius. It's brilliant. Again, from a money-making perspective, they're a marketing machine and they're genius at making money. They know how to do that. But the show is worse, and by comparison, it's like, again, ratings are down 80% from when they were doing it. TK is also a 2% shot to say something really funny, though. True. Carlos, context is key. A lot less people using linear cable. Monday Night Football is not getting 2 million viewers. Their ratings have not dropped 80%. So he's right. Less people are using linear cable. But counterpoint, certain events, certain sports, certain other things are still able to draw the audience that is available. And by the way, streaming is now included in a lot of these rating measurements. And even still, they're down 80%.
Now, I attribute sort of wrestling to movies in a certain way where, we went through the era of the Arnold Schwarzeneggers, the big, strong bodybuilder type of superheroes, and then it kind of calmed down. Then you got the Jason Stathams where it was more technique and what have you. And same thing back in the day, you had Andre and Hulk and all the big boys, and then it's dropped down to a certain level. Is it paralleled in a certain way? Is it like looking going forward, or what do they need to do to really bump it up? Like I looked at a lot of the cards when we did that card break, remember? And I looked and I went, yeah, there's no Coco Beware kind of guy. There's no, just these guys with outrageous personalities and totally different off the wall. Not that they're super strong looking, because I don't think he had the greatest strength body, but he just looked unusual. So going forward, what do they need to do to really improve
I think the answer to your question, is a middle ground, though, is because I'll give you my quick theory, and then we'll get into the search for Hal Gill, but I'll give you my quick theory. I think they have to find the middle ground, because the idea of it being like, Hogan, it's got to be all these larger than life, physically imposing guys. Here's the thing. Hulk Hogan in the ring couldn't get it done. Hulk Hogan could go and be good now because he's Hulk Hogan. If we cloned Hulk Hogan and had him show up now as Hulk Hogan, he'd be booed out of the building in 20 minutes and be unemployed in a year.
Really?
Because he couldn't hack it. Now, the fact he's Hulk Hogan allowed it to work. In the 80s, Hogan's perfect. And then that carried over because by that point, he was a star.
Andre
Hogan
the Giant,
transcends.
Big Show.
Yeah.
They
at that point, they transcend. At that point, they transcend. And The Undertaker came into the perfect time for that gimmick to work. If you try that exact gimmick right now, start from scratch, no background, it fails. It flops flat on its face. It doesn't work.
Really?
100%. It's dead in the water. They tried it very wide. It was dead in the water. It was garbage.
I thought it was more macabre society now, in a sense.
Doesn't matter.
No?
If you're overly gimmicked, it's a show. But if you're a character to that degree, it's like, this is stupid. This is 80s bullshit. The problem is we've seen it already. So now you present this to me today. It's like you try to be too much character to the point you're cartoony. Yeah. I'm not watching a Saturday morning cartoon here, guys. Get this off my screen. Fuck off.
Gotcha.
Like, I'm not interested. But the thing that's failing these guys currently is that they don't understand there's a middle ground. You don't have to be a cartoon character but you do need to have some kind of a dimension. You cannot be a cardboard cutout. If you're a cardboard cutout, it ain't going to work. Just being a body guy alone ain't going to work. You need at least some. I should understand why you're doing what you're doing. If you got the physique and everything, that's going to be great. If you're athletic and everything, that's going to be great. But okay, why are you here and what the hell? Why are you doing the thing you're doing? You need to give me at least the basics. It's the basic storytelling. If you see a villain, but you don't understand anything about them and they're a one-dimensional cardboard cutout, they're not much of a villain. All right, we defeat them. Why? Who the hell are they? What is their threat? We don't understand what it is they're doing. Darth Vader had some depth because after a while you realize, okay, so he's the leader of this thing, and then as it goes on, you find out, oh, he's their father, the Emperor, and then you get all this background and you fill in all the gaps, and now you added depth to this character. I know, right? But you added depth you added depth to this character because if it had just been just the straight up that's it. Okay, but you add a little depth to it. That's where you get the story.
Speaking of Star Wars, I sent you something.
Yes, I do have that.
It's very interesting.
Eric paid quite a bit, but I got questions.
Oh.
Eric?
What now?
Spending all your like money on this, Eric? Empire Strikes Back, Sears exclusive, $42,834.
Still in the package. Look at that, huh?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Crazy.
That was
Those are my toys.
It's the Canadian Sears exclusive.
Yeah, and it wasn't that the first way they released them was in the 3-pack?
Yeah.
That's pretty impressive.
It is, absolutely.
I wish I had all my my Star Wars stuff. I'd be making big bucks.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So Paul here says, worst thing happened to WWE was Austin, The Rock, Mankind all retiring at all around the same time. The same time. There's a little bit of gaps between them, but yes. And Rock went to Hollywood and technically came back, but then was off in Hollywood.
It was sort of an end of an era,
100%, yeah.
Like it was,
but the key was the second part of this. Vince got in his head that he can't create superstars because they would harm them and leave. And that is actually true. Vince got to a point where he wanted to be the star maker. He didn't want people to become stars and then be like, oh, I'm going to go off and do movies, man. I don't need to do this anymore. It ain't going to work for me, brother. Because they could be like, I don't need you anymore. I can go off and make movies and do whatever I want to do. So Vince never got the idea. But so what's funny is that Huggin was talking about how WWE is hot and everything. And I'll have folks that are WWE fans right now argue with me on this. They'll talk about Roman Reigns and all these guys. But then I'll go, okay, cool. And here's the thing. I'm asking it from a perspective of somebody who's been watching this a long time. I go, okay, cool. So what is Roman Reigns? He goes, what do you mean? Like he's a tribal. So they'll start saying things and I go, no. You're giving me his nickname. You're giving me his tagline. You're giving me his catchphrase. I said, what is Roman Reigns? Who is Roman Reigns? Why is Roman Reigns there? Why does he want to be the tribal chief? What does that even mean? What's he in charge of? He wasn't the tribal chief at the beginning. Why is he the tribal chief now? Why does he give a shit about that? What's the difference? But that's my point. The dude has been around now for almost 10 years. And this, to be clear, this is the best version of the guy. As a character, he's better than he's ever been. He's more smooth. He can talk on the microphone. He's good in the ring. He does all the things you want. But he is the perfect product of today's WWE, where it's like, yeah, but he's a cardboard cutout. There's like if you flip him on the side, it's flat. But he looks the part. Roman Reigns would be the example. He is a buff Samoan guy who has great looks. He can talk. He's a smooth talker. Now he's learned how to do it very well. He carries himself like a champion. He does all the things you want. In today's version, he's as close as the biggest star that they have. But he's still a cardboard cutout, two-dimensional character. And I'm like, you can poke a hole right through it.
Nobody knows his name. And nobody out there knows. Everyone knows Hulk. Everyone knew Andre. Everyone knew Roddy Piper. Everyone knew all these other guys. Today, it's just a very niche thing.
Yeah, and here's the thing. It's niche, but WWE can get 60,000 in an arena to watch it. And they can get the people in the arena to change his name and do all that. So here's the thing. I'm not saying no. And I'm not saying they're not doing a good job. But I'm saying the guy who's one of the more successful, he's the best example of the best that you got now. And he's still a cardboard cutout, two-dimensional. I don't know who he is. I don't know why he's there. And I don't know why he's doing what he's doing. AEW has the same problem. So I'll criticize them the same way. They've got amazing talents over there. I don't know who the hell they are. And I don't know why they're doing what they're doing. And that's the problem.
It's almost parallel to the card comic related collectibles, how things have changed. Do you not find that?
It is, but that's why I gave the example a moment ago about the Hogan thing and all the rest of them. Hulk Hogan today wouldn't fly. Who's Hulk Hogan? Vitamins, prayers, brother. Okay, what else? What else, brother? Why are you out here? Why are you trying to win championships? Why do you give a shit? Hollywood Hulk Hogan, ironically, Hollywood Hulk Hogan made sense to me. He had become such a big star. He transcended wrestling. He is actually so arrogant that he believes he's bigger than the business. He believes everyone should grovel at his feet and worship him as the wrestling god. Hollywood Hulk Hogan makes total sense. That actually makes sense to me. Hollywood Hulk Hogan, ironically, is a much better character than red and yellow Hulk Hogan because that guy has a motivation. He wants to be a star. He's a movie star. He wants to be treated like a star. He wants you all to worship him. That's why he wants to be the champion because he's the center of attention. NWO.
Yeah, wasn't he in that? That's where he
But
was.
the point is that makes sense. That was actually his best work, in my opinion. Actually, I buy that because now everything you're doing makes sense in the context of your arrogance. So now I understand why you're doing the things you're doing.
Yeah.
So ironically, they hit on that character. I was like, that is a good idea, guys. That was really well done. And that actually makes sense to me. Now all his actions make total sense in context of his motivations because he's an arrogant asshole who thinks you should worship him. So if you don't, he smashes you with the title. Obviously. They get tired of Roderick Strong. Paul will get that joke. All right. Ultimate Male versus Ultimate Meatball. See, Rocky 3, that's a proper professional wrestling. It's ready to fix. All right. So with that said, Eric, it's time for the quest for Hal effing Gill.
Oh boy.
Let's do it.
Let's make it happen.
Okay. How much are we doing per pack and how many people can get in?
I know, right? So the way this works, if memory serves me, correct me if I'm wrong, Eric, I believe this box set is literally a set, and then they've got the parallels and inserts at the end. So it's like a box set, but with parallels and inserts that are randomized at the end of it. So that's how this one works.
At the end of what?
It's in the box. So inside there's a set, and then there's actually inserts and parallels in that box, but it's not like in packs. It's not how it works, as far as I'm aware.
Oh,
yes,
so
as far as I'm aware, it's not in
right
packs.
away. Just the other ones are commons. We throw them what?
That's exactly it. There's a set, there's a full set that everybody gets in every box.
You get
Listen, you think Billy was going to spend a lot of effort on this? Come on. Check out.
Oh, I see how it is. Oh, shrink wrapped and all done. So where's all the parallels?
So is the parallels and everything inside of that package there, Eric?
Everything is in this.
Gotcha. Make sure you feast your Hal effing Gill, man. I'll be right back.
I know we might get some, get something signed by him or.
Wouldn't that be something?
Yeah.
$50 for Hal Gill.
Are you going to wrap that back up later?
Yes, he will. You know how he does it.
All right. We start off. We got Eddie Shore, PJ Axelson, Marco Sturm.
Who?
Marco Sturm.
Who?
Exactly. Glenn Wesley. Bill Ranford.
There we go.
So this guy.
I don't know.
Mike Knuble.
Jeez.
Brian Ralston. Here's another legend. Terry Sawchuk.
Yeah, 1 year.
Derek Sanderson.
He played 1 year and he gets in the come on.
I didn't make it.
Okay.
Mark Recchi. The player that Wayne Gretzky said he was most afraid of playing against, Steve Casper.
Oh yeah, I forgot about him. It's like the ghost. You can't remember him. He's gone. Anyway.
Right. Adam Oates.
Mr. Oates.
Tim Thomas. John Busick. Gordy Kluzak, who was supposed to be the next Bobby Orr, but his knees were completely junk.
Bobby's?
Yeah, Gordy Kluzak. So he was very much like Bobby Orr.
Mm.
Won the Masterson Trophy because he tried to make a comeback.
Masterton, not Stun, son.
Don Marcotte. John Wensink, Mark Savard, Ken Hodge, Eddie Westfall, who I just saw recently, Torrey Krug, Greg Shepard, David Pasternak.
Ham's got it right. The end is nigh.
Yeah. You got Brian Leach, the Rat, Kenny Linsman.
I
So
forgot
just
he
out of
played for
curiosity,
Boston.
Eric, when you're done with this, are you going to put this in a binder? What's the deal? What's the plan for these?
Yeah, I might. That's probably what I'll do. Probably just put all 100 in order in pages or something.
How
All
long
right.
did Kenny Linsman play for? I know it was mostly Philly.
He went from Philly to Edmonton, where he won a couple of Stanley Cups.
Yeah.
And then came to Boston, and I think he went back to Philly and ended it there. If I remember right.
Yeah, I don't remember him with Boston stuff.
Yeah, he was here he still plays on the alumni team. He still lives locally.
Oh, wow.
And he wears the same skates that he retired in. I don't know how. They're a very unique type of skate, and that's what he plays hockey in still.
Okay.
Charlie Coyle, Joe Juno, Charlie McAvoy, Kyle McLaren, Nifty, Jean Rattel, which I have plans to go to his house and have him sign a bunch of stuff soon. Lionel Hitchman.
Lionel Hitchman, yeah. So
Jerry Cheevers. Andy Moog, who's a friend of the store, very good friend of the store, who's going through cancer treatments right now. So all the best to him. Brad Park. Mike Milbury. Hampus Lindholm. Heinze. Sergei Samsonov. Charlie Simmer, who I was just with last Saturday. Bill Guerin. Oh, here we go.
Oh, insert.
Hal
Gill. There, we got it.
Hal Gill.
Not even signed though.
No. So there's Hal
Well,
Gill.
I think inserts or parallels are at the end, right, Eric?
They're in here somewhere. I'm not sure.
Don't look.
All right.
That's
All right.
You can read off the
cheat
names,
code.
but speed through the regular players a little quicker.
All
Yeah,
right.
because we'll
Ed
be here, like,
Johnston, who I just saw. Dave Christian, 80 Olympic team.
yes.
Walkow. Andrew Raycroft, Rookie of the Year in 04, I think. Brian Propp.
That's a
Omar.
flyer. Did a lot of flyer deals.
Yeah. Carpenter. Butch Goring. Dallas Smith, who I just saw. Alan Peterson. Rogie Vachon. Byron Defoe. Ken Hodge Jr. Paul Coffey, who I just saw and talked to when I was in Toronto. Rick Nash, who shouldn't be in this set at all because he was here for a cup of coffee and he totally sucked.
All-time great Boston Bruin.
Yep.
Coffee.
Phil Esposito, Reed Larson, Willie O'Ree.
There's a big one.
Milan Lucic, who's in trouble for beating his wife right now. Don Ori. Teddy Donato. Glenn Murray, who's very underrated. Zdeno Chara. Tom Fergus. Boychuk. My man.
Pronounce it right.
No.
Lemon.
Big
Gary Swayman, who's losing 4-1 right now. Did Clapper.
There you go.
Zaka.
The clap man.
Bobby Beers. My friend, who I always enjoy seeing, Norman Levaye, when he comes to town. There's that bum.
Best Boston Bruin ever after Helgill.
Joseph Stumpel. Daniel Paye. Jason Allison. Wayne Cashman, who I just saw in Toronto. Harry Sinden. Dave Forbes. Al Secord, who after he retired became an airline pilot.
Really?
Don't know that. Yep. Bob Sweeney, Craig Janney, Keith Crowder, Sean Thornton, Andy Brickley, Terry O'Reilly, Cam Neely. Now, this is a cup of coffee, but the greatest goalie in Bruins history. Bobby, who do you think the greatest goalie to ever put pads in a Bruins uniform is?
Charlie Gardner.
No. A lot of people don't even know this. And he had a very good record. Jacques Plante.
Oh yeah, very short. Yeah.
He was like 8-1. He played in like the 72-73 season, played in the playoffs, and he played really well when he was here, but he only was here for a very short time. Brad Marchand, Bergeron, Dave Reed, Knuckles, Grizzlick, Connor Clifton. All right, so these are the inserts now. That's the set. Who do we have? We have a yellow Byron Dafoe.
Wait, seriously? The parallel is yellow?
They're different.
Billy! Billy!
Creative.
Wow, we really went to the well on that one.
Ken Hodge Jr. yellow parallel.
Okay.
Paul Coffey yellow parallel. A Adam Oates Beantown Classic.
Yeah, so I guess that's one of the actual inserts. Okay.
And here's the probably the shiny, I don't know what they call it, but Mark Savard.
Refractor.
Is that numbered or anything? No.
Nope. That's
wow.
That's like the gold.
They're missing quite a few like good stars from the 20s, 30s, and 40s there. Like Bobby Bauer. There's like there's a lot of guys they missed that you mentioned names you mentioned that shouldn't be there.
I know I went through it and I wasn't paying super attention. I didn't see Milt Schmidt.
No Milt Schmidt, like top Bruin of all time. Like honestly, like Billy.
Look, so I'm gonna read a couple of comments, but I have some thoughts on that. I actually was curious about the contents. I was curious what was inside, but we're gonna find out something.
Yeah, I don't agree with everything.
Yeah, Hockey Barn says just in time for the break. Yep. Hal Gill, that's right. Carlos Breaking Channel now. Listen, when Eric gets out of his retirement to open a product after 457 years, I think he was opening, I think he was opening T206s when they were still in the coffee. Yeah.
And the cigarettes.
Yeah, I'm still a little bit tired.
It's okay.
Yeah. So opening anything, Eric? I'm already that right there. It was like, all right. That's shocking enough. We'll include it.
There you go.
But I do have some thoughts on this product, though. Now that we've actually had the chance to see it, I've got a few notes that I'd like to share. Why aren't you leaving a top link as you go? Listen, Eric's original idea was to put them in the screw down bricks. We figured that would take too long. It might break the streaming record for sheer amount of time. And just leave him alone.
Stream record.
It's like what happened? It's like he's on card number 6. Come on.
Couldn't go any faster.
Look forward to seeing Ace Bailey, Reggie Lemonade.
Yeah, that's Ace isn't in there, which I think is a real shame. You want up here. Milt Schmidt, Bobby Bauer, Woody Dumont. I mean, how do you not have those in a set? That makes no sense.
Yeah, those are your top Bruins of almost all time.
Yeah,
really, Milt Schmidt being missed, like that's. Yeah.
We don't need Paul Coffey. We don't need Brian Leach. You
need Paul Coffey.
No, because even when Paul came to the shop to do a signing with us, he on his own said, "I never should have been here. I was done. I had no business playing hockey anymore. I wasn't into it. I shouldn't. I should have quit. I shouldn't have been involved."
He does the money.
I was gonna say. Mark Williams here says, you thought 3 hours of Raw was long. Hey, listen, it worked out for me. I was able to go refill my beer. And chill for a couple minutes. It was great for me. Hockey says, eek.
Yes.
Hall of Fall reflect the silver and gold logo and gold. So I'm caught up. And mostly it was Ham trolling you. So we approve of that. Yeah. Okay, but here's the thing. Okay, those parallels are super underwhelming. Like that's trash. I'm sorry. Like, look, I can make fun of the Bruins roster in general, and Lord knows I will. But that's not the problem. My main issue here. They've at least got Hal fucking Gill, SB signature legend. Hal would be his name.
Thanks.
So they've got that. So at least that's fine. But here's my problem. So you go through this trouble. You got this box set. You get the base set no matter what. So fine, whatever. Whatever's in the base set, inclusions, exclusions, we can argue about those. That's fine. But the parallels and inserts or what's included in there is like yellow. Yellow.
The Bruins are yellow.
That's the best you could do. Fucking yellow.
Yeah.
You could put it on the outside border or something. Like, I don't know, something. That's lazy.
Yeah.
That's super lazy.
I had to be the one to tell Stan Jonathan he didn't have a card in it, and he was surprised because we broke some. I didn't, but some couple of boxes were broken at the shop during the signing last Saturday, and we had Charlie Simmer sign a bunch of his cards out of this set, and Stan was kind of waiting for us because we were pulling them out right there, and he was waiting for his. And he was surprised to hear that in the Bruins 100 set, even though he's on the 100 team, right? He was picked to be on the Bruins 100 all-time team. He's not in the Bruins 100 set. So I had to be the one to explain to Stan Jonathan, one of the toughest guys in NHL history, that he didn't get a card.
Well, at least he can take solace in understanding that Hal fucking Gill, it was a make good to Hal fucking Gill for not being included in the Bruins 100. So there are clearly issues with multiple of these lists is the point we're making here. Exclusions and inclusions. But I'm not forgiving fucking yellow parallel. That's trash.
Yeah.
The hollow foil, fine. I actually feel like the hollow foil one should have been like the base parallel.
Yes.
And then do something more interesting. Like put some reflective, put some pizzazz in the damn thing somewhere. Anything.
Beantown best. What was that?
Anything. I don't care. Just something.
Beantown Classics.
I'm like, come on.
At least throw a couple of those in there. Something. I don't care. Like,
yeah,
try.
but really nothing was very boring. Like no autographs or anything in this thing.
Well, they do.
Why was there no blimp?
There should be one autograph per.
Hindenburg. That would be card number 1 for me.
Yeah.
We can knock off lemon, include the Hindenburg.
Yep.
No, as long as Reggie's in there, I'm good. I just got to go hunt down the yellow and silver one of him now.
Yeah. So Stuke's asking. This is from a brewery called Lost Craft. It's the root beer float stout.
Oh, it's a stout.
Yeah, I actually saw this in the LCBO. And I was like, root beer float stout. I'm
gotta try it. How is it?
I gotta give it a try. It's not bad actually. It's pretty solid. I think it's pretty decent.
Nice aftertaste.
I think so. I'm actually very impressed with it. It is a little bit sweet, as you would expect, given the flavor that they went for. But I like it. And it is 6%. So I would also note that. So it is a little bit stronger. So, but I think they did a good job. This is a faithful reproduction of a root beer float. It is still a beer, but it is fairly faithful. You can actually taste a little bit of it. I'm reasonably impressed. I bet.
I like root beer floats. Love them.
Hey, listen, I just thought it was interesting. When I saw it, I was like, hey, I'll give that a try. Sure.
That was the big dessert when you were a kid, a root beer float. It's like, wow.
That's true. 100%. Yep. I appreciate the effort. In my house, we made root beer floats, Bobby.
Yeah, we made them too. Yeah. So it was only root beer. That's the only time you really drank root beer, other than going to A&W. Where they would roller skate up to your window and put this hook tray on your window, and you ate in your car. Anyways,
going to super old school. Guessing there's license issues with some of their missing players. Maybe, who knows? Look, I don't pretend to. I have no idea what's going on with how they look. I don't know how they made the list. I don't know how they decided who's included, who's not included. No idea.
I think they missed quite a few.
I would have liked to have seen some of these players that are in here out and the ones in.
Yeah, that's for sure. There's, and even putting like Sawchuk in there, I get it, but he was one season. And same thing with Plante, one season. These other guys like Bobby Bauer, he played like 12 seasons with them. Like, it's just
and then went to war and came back.
And went to war, came back and played again too. So that's too many big stars that they missed in the 40s, but they're trying to keep it as current as possible, I guess, to keep people entertained. I have no idea, but a lot of the guys are from the 2000s, 90s, late 90s.
Yeah, they threw a lot of folks. They threw a lot of folks that had brief cameos with the franchise later in their careers.
I mean, the guys, played for the Kings, he played for the Islanders and the Bruins, but he's an Islander, right? I mean, if you ever do an Islander set, he's absolutely in it.
Like Kenny Linsman, Flyers, for sure, 100%.
He went to 2 Stanley Cup Finals with us in '88 and '90. I think he was on the '90 team also. So
he was called the Rat for a reason, anyways.
Yeah. No, he was here for a while, and he was a big part of the team when he was here. So I don't mind having any in that, but there's just others that don't make any sense. And again, I mean, I had to tell Stan Jonathan, sorry, you didn't get one.
Tisk.
It doesn't make any sense because he's on the 100 team.
And yet Hal Gill is not on the 100 team. Tragic. So Ham here says, give us a full shiny card. So that was kind of what my point I was making. Upper Deck has access to that swatch book of different foils. I would have used that for one of the parallels. I would have done like, give it the foil treatment, do the pyro type foil and, for one of the parallels. And there you go. Make it look a little different. Again, give it a little more pizzazz. Give it a little bit, spice it up a little bit if you're going to include a couple of parallels in there with it. Again, you've only got so many autographs. I understand that. You're going to have some regular kind of inserts in it. I understand that too. But you got this box that, throw a shiny parallel in there. It's just got to be one. Like you can make the other one. Again, you can do yellow, but then make it more yellow. Like make it more of the card. Because I think it was just a little symbol, wasn't it? It was basically just the yellow.
They just made the symbol yellow, yeah.
That's mailing it in. I'm sorry. That's mailing it in. That's 100% mailing it. That's half-assed. I'm sorry.
Yeah, you could have done like yellow, orange, red, a little bit of waviness to it, and just call it the playoff parallel.
Wow. Again with the Hindenburg flames, fire flames. You could literally, they could have been just the Elmo burning meme at the bottom corner. Just throw that at the bottom and say, there you go. No Tim Thomas. I don't think so. Was Tim Thomas in there?
No.
Oh, he wasn't there? Yeah. Okay.
Oh, was he? Okay.
Yeah. Joe here, Dr. Exclusive says the entire Bruins crowd line was left out of the set. Okay. Yeah. There you go.
That's nuts. Yeah. It's absolutely nuts.
I think Norman Lavallée was in it, right? I think you mentioned
it.
Yeah. Next time he comes in, we're definitely going to have him sign it.
Nice.
Well,
so there you go.
You got the signing those cards, right?
Oh, true. For that purpose, I think it's fine. I think the design works fine if you want to sign it because it's got it's washed out a little bit on the outside. So I think it would actually look okay with the pen on there signing yourself. I think that would look all right.
We're gonna try to get at work. We're gonna try to get all that's possible to be signed.
You can get Plant.
Yeah, I can get Jacques Plant, Terry Sawchuk.
Yeah, all the boys. Dick Clapper.
Yeah,
made it. I'm surprised. There's a couple teammates of Dick Clapper there are really good too. I can't think of them right now.
I think the crazy one is going to be when they show you the autograph stick from Dick Clapper on a Easton Synergy stick.
Yeah.
I think that one's going to be like, ooh, that's going to be a crowd pleaser, that one.
Yeah, we have a couple of those at the shop.
Yeah. Are you going to show them on Instagram? You can crash them to a wall or shelf or something. Like what part of the building can you hit with this thing?
There's not a lot of room at work. It's very a lot of stuff.
Oh yeah, lots.
So that was the first pack box opening for Eric since what, the 90s?
Since the 90s, yeah.
And the first opening on the show officially.
That is true. Although I will tell you, in advance for the holiday special on Sunday, I will bring the 92 O-Pee-Chee baseball box.
Oh, so you're going to do it?
Yeah. Well, I might as well. Why not? Like, honestly, I don't think it warrants a video. There's no inserts in it. I'm going to go through it. And if I see any interesting characters along the way, I'll show them off. But I figure it'd be good.
I got a good deal on that box too.
I did get a big deal on the box, but there's plenty of them out there. It's not like they're that rare.
No, but you got a good deal. So yeah.
Yeah. I for me, the nostalgia of going through, because I remember the 90s players. I remember the players from those teams. So I can literally go through and be like, yep, I know who this is. I remember these guys. So for me, it'd be pretty easy to do. And you're going to get a heavier dosage of Expos and Blue Jays. So that'll be a little throwback. Be kind of fun to have because you're going to get the heavier Canadian representation. And the Gary Carter subset, I think, is in that one as well. So you're going to get a little extra bonus Gary Carter content as part of that checklist.
Rock and roll.
Yeah, that'll be pretty good. All right, folks. So we'll start winding her down now. I want to thank Neo, Cards and Comics, emphasis on the comics in this case, coming in and giving us a little background on that, because that he does collect the comics more heavily. So that is his world. He was able to give us a little info on that and give us some background on it.
Yeah,
We'll see. Yeah, it'll be an interesting story to keep tabs of. There's some stuff we're working on for the future. That'll probably be next year. Next year, we can say that. New Year's Eve, Christmas Eve will be an episode, and then New Year's Eve will be an episode, and those will be the last two. For the New Year's Eve episode, for folks that are around during that time, bring your hobby resolutions. If you paid attention to the podcast, you're going to know that. If you got any, I'm curious if you're going to change it. So here, let me make this easy for you. Is there anything you're thinking of changing up, or something specific that you're trying to do, maybe different in 2024 that you were doing in 2023? Anything you want to change up, or anything you're thinking of doing? Brandon gave you a good example. Eric gave you a good example. I gave you an example of that. Certain things that maybe more of a focus on this, or trying to change up that, or trying to consolidate this for whatever. Those are different angles you can take. It's not one size fits all. It's whatever the hell works for you.
If you tuned in tonight, the simple answer is just going to be in 2024, you're going to grade freaking everything. Just go all in 100%. It does. Your pillowcases, send them in and get graded. Just everything. Grade everything. Okay. If there was one takeaway,
there's
from
lots
tonight,
of hockey pillowcases. You know that, right?
They could be strawberry shortcake. Or just plain
so,
white.
so real quick, before we log off, Bobby's comment just leave me with a thought. So you know how Beckett has those fucking gigantic cases for like the booklets, where like the case is the size of like a small planet?
Yes.
Wouldn't it be great if Beckett has those, but then, oh yeah, we'll grade pillowcases, and it's like a matchbox. It's like this tiny little thing. They squish it in there and like push it. It's like you've got something large and you compress it into this tiny little thing, but you get a booklet and you got to have this thing.
Use a space saver.
Yeah, they get it vacuum sealed in.
Yep.
Just push it in there. It's like, Eric, in 2024, we need your company to step it up, man. Like, holy shit, man. Holy shit.
I just looking at these. Rick Nash played 11 games. Brian Propp played 14 games. So the Kraut line, we're not putting them in the set, but 11 games and 14 games, they get a card in the set.
Legends.
And Terry Sawchuk played 2 seasons. He played 102 games. He was 40, 43, and 19.
He got two seasons, eh? I thought it was. Oh, he was only on. See, that's the time. It was 49, 50, and 50, 51.
No, it was 55, 56, and 56, 57. And his first year, he played 68 games.
Wow.
He was 22 and 33.
There's 72 back then, right? Maybe. No, probably not even.
He had 102 games. So, I mean, that's a lot different than 14 and 11.
But they were 14 and 11 legendary games.
Yeah,
memorable games that everyone who had the opportunity to see will never forget.
Paul Coffey played 18 games.
Who?
Yeah.
I don't know if you know this, Eric, but Paul Coffey's in the Hall of Fame.
Hal Gill played 626.
Because he's a fucking signature legend.
That's right. So I'd rather have a Hal Gill card in this set than a Paul Coffey card.
Who wouldn't? It's Hal and Gill, man. Come on.
Ridiculous.
Goes without saying. Listen, it's your team set. I don't know what to tell you. It's your problem. Dave says, I'm glad to see Eric was more lively this week. There you go. You give him a Bruins box set, and there you go. Eric will make it the happiest Christmas Eve since Bing Crosby tap dance on Danny effing Kaye.
Danny K. Danny K was amazing.
Danny K.
Old time.
Ham says, night guys, have a Merry Christmas, even Eric. There you go. Look at you in the spirit of the season, Ham. Look at you in the spirit of the season. But yes, so thank you to Neo for popping in and hanging out. I appreciate that. We appreciate Bobby in the Garage of Knowledge, as always. We have Brandon, Baubles and Ball cards. He brought his festive hat and everything, so we do appreciate that. And Eric opened the box.
Yeah.
So, like Miracle on 34th Street, Eric, leave your cane in the corner. And
gonna open up any other new product ever again.
I think you should open another box of Centennial just to make sure that wasn't a fluke.
Yeah.
No,
You should double check to make sure the crowd line isn't in the second box. Are you sure about that?
You could be a good breaker.
No, I think I will
Just
never
with
ever.
Bruins.
I've waited all these years to open something. I'm completely disappointed, and I will just simply never ever open up anything ever again.
So what you're saying is the Bruins Centennial box set left you disappointed.
I
You're
just
saying
went
the
over,
result was disastrous. Would you say like a Hindenburg like disaster?
I almost having to tell Stan Jonathan he doesn't get a card was Hindenburg esque.
Wow.
I would say.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know, there's Charlie Simmer over there, great guy, absolutely love him, and he's a legendary player, but he was a legendary player in LA. Okay,
Listen, man. All I'm going to say is I want to hear the same energy. And Bobbles, all I'm going to say is this. I want to hear the same energy from this man when Bruins Centennial Box Set 2 Electric Boogaloo comes out. And as part of the Cup update set, they throw these fucking shitty cards in there. Hey guys, we found some foil. Here's some fucking shitty cards. Hey, here's Hal Gill in Dufex. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm glad the card I would love to own is a update edition to the overpriced set.
Amazing.
Yes.
Amazing. I'll see if I can find. I'll see if I can find it. I've watched some Cup tin openings. There was one where I saw that on the thumbnail the guy put it was $1,200 Canadian is what he paid for the tin for the current edition of the Cup, and the RPA had a dinged corner that looked like the card had been dropped and then put in. Remember, this is a hand pack set, by the way. And then the hit was a nameplate Frank Mahavlich, which is out of 15. I have a nameplate for Medano, but that year the nameplates they actually put them in a piece of silver. These are a nameplate that just look like a piece of plastic. So these are the major downgrade, and it looked like they double stamped the serial numbering. Again, this is hand packed, so somebody actually had this card in their hand. It's in the pack. Good luck.
What the hell? Yeah.
Good luck to you. Fuck you, bro.
Yeah,
$1,200.
yeah, thank you.
Okay, great.
$300 in value. Yeah.
Yeah, I was sitting there like,
lucky.
wow, that's that's a solid kick in the junk right
The
there.
one time you don't want Frank. Yeah.
Hey man, I don't know what to say. Anyway, all right, folks. So that's it. Shorter episode this week. Back on Sunday for the holiday special, the holiday spooktacular. But it's a holiday spooktacular. I said. Eric will be there. It's scary.
Yeah.
Boo. So holiday spooktacular, and then New Year's Eve will be there, and then that'll be it. That'll be it for live streams for the year 2023, and then continued on to the longest running episodic, whatever the hell this is, into 2024.
What the hell is this nonsense?
You might have to name it something in 2024. You know that.
That sounds an awful lot like effort. just call it the newbie. I see live stream. Just throw the word new. Literally change nothing. Just slap the word new on it. Boom.
Okay.
Tape it on. Listen, I could literally just put the new in yellow and call that a parallel of the live stream.
Yeah.
I heard that works.
Call it
You can mail it in and sell
The new
people that
yellow
shit.
episodic, whatever it is.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Welcome to your Friday night dumpster fire. That's what we should say.
Oh, we can't review the Boston Centennial box set every week, Eric.
Just call it the
gotta
Chit
kill 'em.
Show
The shit show.
with a C. The Chit Show.
Well, Brandon had it right. You got to do the update set. We need
True. Yeah. You got to include it in there.
I think
and
that's
basically
where all the
include
stars are
everyone
hidden.
except the players that Eric wants.
Yep. And with different colors. It'll be black. All cards will be black.
Hogbarn says, a name sounds like a 2025 problem. Facts. We'll be back praising the name of the content gods at least 2 more times before the year's end. Thank you all for joining us. Thank you all for the comments. Appreciate it. Have yourselves a good night. Enjoy the rest of your day. It is still Friday. East Coast, West Coast, still Friday. Enjoy the rest of your day and the rest of your weekend. Have a good one.
Merry Christmas all.